Chapter 2023. There is also a mysterious master of the Dragon Clan behind Yanglan, which made Yang Chun a little surprised, but also a little excited. Unexpectedly, his inadvertent operation could also catch a big fish. Yang Chen's hard work this month was not in vain. With such a mysterious master behind him, Yang Chun couldn't beat the grass and startle the snake. Therefore, the spiritual awareness snake immediately lurked quietly and did not move, waiting for Yang Chen's next action. The healing heart pill recipe had been finally determined. Compared with the healing heart pill in his previous life, the healing heart pill optimized by Yang Chun was better. The feeling of taking it was very similar to the refining heart pill, but there was no trouble of being addicted to the medicine. Even if it was taken for a long time, there was no need to worry about addiction. Of course, the healing heart pill was only a means to alleviate the addiction of the refining heart pill. The most important thing was the free and unfettered secret art. The free and unfettered secret art was the feeling of one's own cultivation. There was no need to worry about any external interference, nor would one be addicted to anything. This was the safest stage of the secret art. However, Yang Chun still cautiously waited for half a year, waiting until all the cultivators who participated in the trial were no longer troubled by the refining heart pill under the dual effects of the healing heart pill and the free and unfettered secret art. Even if they were directly bathed in the medicine, there would be no problem. Only then did he officially push out the healing heart pill recipe and the free and unfettered secret art. The healing heart pill was Yang Chen's credit, but the free and unfettered secret art was the result of the joint research of the Xian Immortal elders of the major sect. On the surface, Yang Chun only cared about alchemy. Everything seemed normal, and no one would find it strange. No one dared to question the free and unfettered secret art. That was the credit of the Xian Immortal elders of the major sect. Questioning the free and unfettered secret art was questioning them. There were no fools among the cultivators. The pill recipe and the secret art had been launched, and they were immediately enthusiastically pursued by countless cultivators. The refining heart pill had now become the heart demon of many cultivators. If the troubles of the refining heart pill were not solved, many cultivators would not dare to go out. Yang Chun and the other major sects' medicinal pills and martial arts manuals had become their life-saving straws. Once they had been tested, they were immediately praised. Unfortunately, the effect was not immediate. Even if the heart-healing pill and the unfettered mantra could replace the heart-refining pill, there was no need to worry about people becoming addicted to it. However, this process still required a certain amount of time. Calculating it, those cultivators would need at least 2 years, or even longer, to completely quit their addiction to the heart-refining pill. For cultivators, 2 years was not a long time. For the more powerful ones, a casual retreat could last for tens or even hundreds of years. Most importantly, solving the problem of the heart-tempering pill was what everyone was concerned about. By relying on the heart-healing pill and the unfettered art, he believed that he would be able to restore the spiritual realm to its former glory very soon. Once all the demonic beasts in the trial grounds were wiped out, the demonic tribulation would come to an end. It had been more than 800 years, which was less than 200 years compared to his previous life. Moreover, in his previous life, the trial grounds had not been wiped out. Instead, they had continued to maintain the demonic beasts in the trial grounds. The only difference was that the major sect controlled the trial grounds. Now, cultivators could enter and exit the trial grounds at any time. The major sect finally let go of their worries. With the heart-healing pill and the unfettered art, their disciples no longer had to worry about problems with their cultivation. They also no longer had to worry about being plotted against. What made the major sect feel especially proud was that the unfettered art, which solved the root of the problem, was the work of the elders they had sent out. There was no need to worry about any traps. The experts of the mysterious heaven sect were especially satisfied. Those who had taken the heart-refining pill felt like they had reached a bottleneck in their cultivation and needed to break through. After experiencing this, their stagnant cultivation began to show signs of improvement. It had to be said that even though many people had taken the heart-refining pill, There was a world of difference between taking it while knowing the consequences and taking it passively without knowing the consequences. Aside from the experts of the major sect keeping a close eye on the core of the trial grounds, the spiritual realm had basically returned to its peaceful state. All the cultivators were hiding in their own territories, quietly recuperating while licking their wounds, waiting for the next wave of battle. The battle with the Zhao family would not easily stop, and all the sect knew this. Right now, it was just the calm before the storm. Whether it was the Zhao family or the other cultivators, they would not give up. However, no one knew when the next battle would break out. Everyone understood that once the battle began, whether it was an expert or a weakling, the final deciding factor was their own cultivation. That was why so many people had used the heart-refining pill to cultivate. In fact, they were all fighting for their own future. The heart-refining pill had already been proven to be a trap, so everyone used the unfettered art. After all, in terms of credibility, the experts of the major sect were much more trustworthy than the Zhao family. Yang Qin's cultivation during this time was also to improve his cultivation base. The speed of absorbing the fire seed to improve his cultivation base was much faster than normal cultivation. Yang Qin was not impatient. After solving the matter of refining the heart pills, he was not in a hurry to cultivate with all the girls. He did not go out of the door and did not step out of the door. He was like a lady from a noble family. The short-term goal was to improve his spiritual awareness to the golden immortal realm as soon as possible, so that he could cause the spiritual awareness to split again and reach the 6th level of the 3 purity secret art. At that time, Yang Qin's 3rd primordial spirit could become the artifact spirit of the Mountain River geographical map, in charge of the world of the Mountain River geographical map, and in charge of the heavenly Tao of that world. This goal was not very far away. After so many years of cultivation, Yang Qin and the women's spiritual awareness had steadily improved together. They had returned to the level of peak Xian Immortal, only one step away from entering the golden immortal realm. Ao Lan and Ao Lai, who had disappeared for a long time, finally appeared again and were soon welcomed into the Dragon Palace. As soon as they met, Ao Lai first presented a small and exquisite palace to Yang Qin like a treasure. He asked for credit loudly. "Here, this is the golden dragon palace you want." Yang Qin's 5 elements dragon palace had already obtained 4 attributes. He only needed the metal attribute to be complete. Last time, Ao Lan promised Yang Qin to help Yang Qin find a golden dragon palace. He really did not break his promise. As soon as the golden dragon palace appeared, the one who reacted the fastest was not Yang Qin, but Xiao Tian. His figure appeared outside the dragon pagoda and swallowed the small dragon palace into his abdomen. After a while, he spat it out. There was no dragon aura on the golden dragon palace. The missing corner of the 5 elements dragon palace was finally completed, forming a complete cycle of 5 elements. Xiao Tian placed the dragon pagoda on the base of the golden dragon palace almost without stopping, and then began the process of refining and fusing crazily. "Big sister, did you find any clues on this trip?" Yang Qin did not need to pay too much attention to the 5 elements dragon palace. Xiao Tian would refine them. Yang Qin only cared about what Ao Lan found when she went back to understand the situation. Chapter 2024. One of my companions told me that there was a traitor in the dragon race. Ao Lan spoke very directly. She knew the importance of the matter, so she did not beat around the bush. It is said that he is of the wood attribute. The dragon palace that Yang Qin obtained last time was the wood dragon palace. This feature could basically be matched. That was to say, there was a high chance that one of the mysterious dragon race experts of the Zhao clan was this traitor. However, there are not many records of him. Everyone does not know much about him. They are all rumors. No one has seen him before. Ao Lan was clearly not very happy. Perhaps it was because she did not have more information. It is said that the traitor was imprisoned in a secret formation by a dragon race senior a long time ago. Logically speaking, he should not have been able to escape. There is nothing impossible in this world. Yang Qin sighed. Not to mention being imprisoned in a formation, the dragon puppet was refined into a puppet and then sealed in a formation. Didn't he still manage to dig it out? This world did not lack anything. much less accidents. Aolan did not seem to want to doubt the Dragon Race Senior. However, she could not refute it. Actually, she had already thought of this possibility in the depths of her heart. She just did not want to admit it verbally. At least, it has not been proven yet, Aolan argued stubbornly. However, she was not as confident as she thought. How can it be proven? Yang Chun countered with a question. Then he asked, what exactly did he do to make you think that he is a traitor of the dragon race? He killed another heavily injured dragon race expert. Aolan answered subconsciously. After she answered, she realized that this should be a secret of the dragon race. It should not be announced to the public. Fortunately, there was only Yang Chun and Aolai here. There should not be any problems. Since he had already revealed the most important part, there was no need to hide anything else. It wouldn't have mattered if he had killed an enemy, but that expert of the Dragon Clan was his companion. Later, when the other elders of the Dragon Clan found out about it, they punished him heavily and sealed him away. Speaking of which, he should be considered our senior. Aolan was somewhat dispirited. Yang Chun was very tactful as he served up the Jade Dragon wine. After Aolan opened it and guzzled it, he calmed down. Big sister, if you want to know the answer, there is only one way. Yang Chun waited for Aolan to calm down before saying slowly, let's go to that sealed place and take a look. Someone has already gone over to check. Aolai interjected from his side. Seeing that Aolan did not show any unhappy expression, he continued, however, we will only know after some time. When Yang Chun heard this, he couldn't help but have some complaints about the dragon race's confidence. Since they were going to imprison an extremely dangerous person, why did they have to believe that a sealing formation would be effective for a long time? Couldn't they just send an expert to watch over them, or just kill them? Since this fellow was already a traitor, what was the point of keeping him around? He couldn't help but ask. Aolai was basically just a bystander. He did not know the ins and outs of this at all. Only Aolan could explain. That guy is the legitimate son of one of our seniors. It was that senior who personally imprisoned and sealed him. Aolan also sighed slightly. Then, she said somewhat unnaturally, that senior once took good care of me. The dragon race was also a group of cultivators. There was a normal difference in intimacy. It was unavoidable for such a thing to happen. Yang Chun could not help smiling bitterly. What was going on? Xiao Chun even felt that it was very possible that there was no accident in the sealing formation that imprisoned that fellow. Even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs. Could it be that the dragon race was an exception? Aolan probably understood all this, which was why she felt this was somewhat difficult. What are your plans for now? Yang Chun decided to wait for news from the dragon race to arrive first. He would not tell Aolan about what he discovered in his sea of consciousness for now. He would wait until the news was confirmed before doing anything else. Right now, he had to ask big sister Aolan about her plans first. Waiting for news. Aolan was in a very bad mood. She said bitterly, I'll just help you merge the divine dragon palace here. I'm afraid that I will get angry when I find out. That would be disrespectful to that senior. Is that senior still in the spiritual realm? Yang Chun asked carefully. He ascended long ago, Aolan replied. Yang Chun heaved a long sigh. He thought back to the dragon race cultivators that he had killed for a long time. There did not seem to be many of them. He did not know if the senior that Aolan mentioned was among them. Since Aolan was not in the spiritual realm, some things would be easier to handle. Otherwise, Aolan might not be able to get over this. In that case, big sister can stay here. Yang Chun extended an invitation very generously. The 5-element dragon palace is probably suitable for big sister as well. You can stay wherever you want. If you do not want to stay in the sect, we can go to the hatred parting sea. Or if big sister is interested, you can go to the mountain river geographical map and enjoy being a dragon king. Before Aolan expressed his stance, Aolai had already jumped out happily. Aolai was also a royal member of the dragon race. It was not wrong to call him a dragon king. Ever since he became a spiritual body, he had not felt that feeling for many years already. The moment Yang Chun mentioned it, Aolai could not help wanting to go to the mountain river geographical map. Aolan waved her hand impatiently, indicating that she did not care about Aolai's business. Aolai immediately went to look for Gong Sunling in high spirits, leaving Aolan to face Yangchen alone. When necessary, killing a traitor shouldn't have much psychological pressure, right? Yangchen was enlightening on the side. It's not me, it's you. Aolan suddenly said inexplicably, causing Yangchen to be confused and at a loss. You spoiled his plans several times. He will probably target you. Aolan raised her head and looked at Yangchen, seemingly wanting to see Yangchen's worried expression. However, Aolan was disappointed. Yangchen's expression did not change at all. That is to be expected. Yangchen smiled and suddenly bowed to Aolan. Many thanks for Big Sister's care. Yangchen is very grateful. Aolan did not want to stay because she was in a bad mood. It was clear that she was afraid that something bad would happen to Yangchen when he met that dragon race expert. That was why she found a reason to stay. Yangchen was very grateful for this friendship. Big Sister, rest assured and stay here. After Yangchen thanked Aolan, he immediately said, coincidentally, there are some cultivation matters that I still need to consult Big Sister about. The dragon confining formation has already been broken by Aling. Big Sister does not need to worry about that formation anymore. This surprised Aolan. Yangchen's violent method was not suitable for them. Unexpectedly, Gong Sunling managed to solve this mystery. However, this was a good thing for the dragon race. Indeed, Aolan was very happy. Furthermore, there is something that I need to let Big Sister know. Yangchen intended to let Aolan know about Yanglan's plans. Chapter 2025. Outsiders did not know that Yanglan had used a Chunyang palace disciple to plot against Yangchen. Yangchen only told Aolan that part. When he mentioned that Yanglan wanted to leave behind the dragon snaring lasso to capture Aolan and Aolai in one fell swoop, Aolan's eyes burned with rage. Aolan could accept the fact that a dragon race expert of the Zhao clan had designs on the dragon race. After all, the other party was from the dragon race. He was a traitor of the dragon race and had done such a thing in the past. However, who was this Yanglan? He was just an ant-like thing, and he dared to have designs on the dragon race? Was he tired of living? Where is this fellow? On the spot, Aolan wanted to make a move and kill this fellow who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Only after Yangchen persuaded him in every possible way did he calm down. Big Sister, the main point is not this Yanglan. Yangchen pushed Aolan back to his seat and served him a cup of fragrant tea. Then he slowly advised, what I mean is you all always treat the dragon coiling grass as a worry. Every time, you are restrained by it. This is not a solution, right? In that case, do you have any good ideas? Aolan asked Yangchen in a bad mood. Yangchen was not of the dragon race. Naturally, he did not think that the dragon coiling grass was that impressive. However, as a member of the dragon race, how could he not know the dangers of the dragon coiling grass? The dragon race had already spent a lot of effort to eradicate the dragon coiling grass. However, there were no absolutes in the world. After spending so much effort, they still could not completely eradicate the dragon coiling grass. There would always be some seeds left. The Zhao family had quite a few of them. It was likely that the dragon clan's expert had no choice but to obey the Zhao family because the dragon coiled grass was in the hands of the Zhao family. That is what I think. Yangchen ignored Aolan's resentment. He said calmly, Big Sister, look, tigers and leopards will always kill cows and sheep. However, after cultivating to a certain realm, tigers and leopards become prey. Grass and trees are the same. You must have seen the old tree demon and Mubo in my sect. They used to be natural enemies. Didn't they kill each other whenever they wanted? Even cows, goats, and grass are like this. Could it be that the dignified dragon clan is helpless against the dragon entangled grass? These words already contained a hint of provocation. After Yangchen finished speaking, he looked at Aolan's expression to see how she would react. Aolan let out a long sigh. After a while, he smiled bitterly and said, after the ancestors of the dragon race discovered the dangers of the dragon coiling grass, They immediately ordered all the dragon race to exterminate the dragon race to prevent the descendants of the dragon race from being harmed by the dragon coiling grass. Furthermore, he also issued a ban. Descendants of the dragon clan are forbidden from refining and using dragon entanglement grass. Otherwise, they would be considered traitors of the dragon clan and could be executed by anyone. Do you really think that the dragon clan traitor became a traitor just because he killed a companion? At this moment, Aolon finally revealed the true secrets of the dragon race. He used a magic treasure refined from the dragon coiling grass to kill his companion. That was how he became a traitor. So, when you see the dragon coiling grass, you exterminate it but never thought of how to deal with it. Yang Chen asked, understanding what Aolon meant. This time, Aolon did not say anything. She only nodded, answering Yang Chen's question. Pedantic. Yang Chen criticized rudely. That dragon race ancestor of yours is a stubborn old man. You descendants are all hypocrites. Serves you right to be restrained by the dragon coiling grass. How could Aolon endure Yang Chen scolding the dragon race ancestor? She immediately became enraged. If not for the fact that Yang Chen did not mean to offend her, she might have immediately pounced forward and taught Yang Chen a lesson. You dare to insult my dragon race ancestor? Aolon shouted angrily at Yang Chen. Stubborn old man and hypocrites. This was simply an insult to the entire dragon race. I have already killed more than 1 or 2 dragon race ancestors. Yang Chen did not back down. He stood up and slammed the table. Don't talk about insulting me. So what if I kill them? When Yang Chen slammed the table, Aolon became even more enraged. However, she restrained herself and did not make a move. She and Yang Chen glared at each other across the table. If there were knives in their eyes, they would have exchanged many moves already. I said that you were stubborn, but you refused to admit it. No wonder the dragon race is declining, not even daring to show their faces in the spiritual realm. Yang Chen seemed to be purposely provoking Aolon. He said loudly, human cultivators even dared to rebel against the heavenly court in the immortal realm. When I was just an ordinary person, I even dared to kill the Jade Emperor and the Tao Ancestor. Yet you, the mighty dragon race, are hiding in your little nest and trembling at the mere dragon coiling grass. Is that very honorable? That is the ancestral teaching. Aolon started to shrink back when Yang Chen shouted. After stammering out a few words, her voice got softer and softer until she could not continue. Yang Chen was right. Human cultivators even dared to rebel against the heavenly court. What was the ancestral teaching? Of course, they had to follow it. However, if it was wrong or limited, could it be that they had to cling to the ancestral teaching and allow the descendants of the dragon race to be restrained by the dragon coiling grass? That was not enough. Yang Chen seemed to want to convince Aolon in one go. So, he directly pulled Aolon to Sun Qingshue's room. When Sun Qingxue saw her husband and elder sister Aolon coming over, she was about to say something. However, Yang Chen waved his hand to stop her. Little Shui, show elder sister Aolon how you usually cultivate. Yang Chen instructed Sun Qingxue, call Xiao Tian over as well. Aolon was wondering why Sun Qingxue called Xiao Tian over when she was cultivating. The scene before her caused her expression to change. Sun Qingxue did not say anything and sat down cross-legged. Xiao Tian also quickly flew from the dragon pagoda to Sun Qingxue's side. After that, a scarlet vine came out of Sun Qingxue's body. In just a moment, the vine wrapped around Sun Qingxue and Xiao Tian tightly. With Aolon's eyesight, she could tell at a glance that the scarlet vine was clearly a combination of several super plants. She could recognize the blood demon vine, the blue jade vine, and the dragon coiling grass. There was also another unknown but seemingly extremely powerful vine. She could not name it, but it was the demon-eating vine. The blood demon vine and the demon-eating vine were sucking Sun Qingxue's blood and eating Sun Qingxue's flesh. However, Sun Qingxue was using her own cultivation to fight against the two. Xiao Tian was also entangled by the dragon coiling grass. Even the blood demon vine was sucking his blood and eating his flesh. Similarly, he was also using the unique cultivation method of the dragon race to fight against it. Only the blue jade vine would help Sun Qingxue and Xiao Tian when necessary. At other times, it was basically Sun Qingxue and Xiao Tian who were fighting against it. Aolan never thought that the youngest Sun Qingxue, who had always been delicate, would cultivate so desperately. Because of this, Sun Qingxue, who did not have the dragon race's life source magic weapon and did not have any advantages, had been consistent with the other girls in terms of cultivation. This was not without reason. There was no luck in success. How much you pay, how much you can reap. Chapter 2026. Sun Qingxue's desperate move moved Aolan because Sun Qingxue would be swallowed by the blood phantom vine and the demon-eating vine if she did not pay attention. However, Xiao Tian's performance made Aolan feel a little embarrassed. Xiao Tian had the bloodline of Yazi. It was said to be a dragon, but after all, it was still slightly not pure enough. For a long time, Aolan regarded Xiao Tian as a lucky person who was discovered by Yang Chun, and then was lucky enough to take charge of the Dragon Tower. Everything was luck. But now she saw that Xiao Tian was restrained by the dragon grass and also had to fight against the blood phantom vine and the demon-eating vine. That kind of effort made Aolan no longer simply regard Xiao Tian as a bastard. At this moment, in Aolan's eyes, Xiao Tian was even more shameful than most of the dragon experts. After Yang Chun got the dragon grass and gave it to Sun Qingxue, Yang Chun asked Xiao Tian to cultivate together with Sun Qingxue. The dragon clan could not always regard the dragon grass as a natural enemy to restrain themselves. They had to find a way to overcome it. Xiao Tian was not born as a Yazi, but with a trace of the bloodline that no one would notice. Relying on the blood essence of the howling celestial dog found by Yang Chun, Xiao Tian was awakened with the Yazi bloodline and became a real Yazi. This also made Xiao Tian never get any ancestral teachings. Naturally, he never followed the rules of the dragon clan. It was easy to accept Yang Chen's suggestion. When the dragon grass appeared for the first time, Xiao Tian tasted that kind of taste once and was very unhappy. Now, his efforts were to adapt to the dragon grass first, and then slowly achieve the goal of being able to resist or even ignore the dragon grass. The reason was easy to understand. As long as Aolan saw this scene, she would know what Yang Chun and Xiao Tian were planning. But it was precisely because of this that Aolan felt ashamed. Even a small bastard Yazi had such determination and perseverance, and even had such action. But they, as the dignified dragon clan and the royal family, were actually not as good as Xiao Tian. It was shameful to think about it. If we succeed, maybe we can use Yang Lan to enter the Zhao family. Yang Chun did not forget to add fuel to the fire. He said to Aolan, "Perhaps we might even be able to see that dragon race traitor." Seeing that Aolan was already somewhat moved, Yang Chun added, "Of course, the dragon race would not have to worry about the restraints of the dragon entanglement grass in the future. This would be a great matter for the dragon race, right? Call Aolai back. Let's try it together." Aolan finally made his decision. However, the moment he spoke, he included Aolai as well. What a pitiful fellow. Up until now, he still didn't have any autonomy. Aolai reluctantly joined the group that cultivated with Sun Qingxue and began the arduous process of training against the dragon coiling grass. What Yang Chun did not expect was that with the addition of Aolan and Aolai, the jasper dragon coiling demonic vine planted in Sun Qingxue soared to an inconceivable level after obtaining the blood of peak Heaven Immortal and peak Golden Immortal experts. Even Bai's main body was fortunate enough to share the taste of peak Heaven Immortal and peak Golden Immortal dragon blood. As a result, Bai's main body's cultivation soared to the Heaven Immortal realm. This was the result of only digesting half of Aolai's blood. He believed that when Bai was able to restrain Aolan's blood, the item spirit would undergo tribulation again. Sun Qingxue also obtained a huge opportunity. One had to know that the jasper dragon coiling demonic vine had always been planted in Sun Qingxue's body. For more than 1,000 years, It relied on Sun Qingshue's flesh and blood essence to nourish it. It was already more of a life treasure than a life treasure, especially when it was alive. When the Jasper Dragon coiling demonic vines realm soared, it also led to the rapid improvement of Sun Qingshue's cultivation. In the beginning, the powerful spiritual power consumed almost drained the spiritual vein under Sun Qingxue. If Sun Qingxue had not been in the Dragon Palace, there would not be a lack of spiritual power at all. Maybe it would have failed because of the lack of spiritual power. Yang Chun did not expect such a situation. Originally, it was to let Ao Lan and Ao Lai overcome the restraint of the Jasper Dragon coiling grass. He did not expect that his wife's cultivation would also increase. Yang Chun simply looked forward to such a thing. It would be best if it happened to everyone he knew. Because of the changes of the Jasper Dragon coiling demonic vine, it took Sun Qingxue almost a year to absorb spiritual power to enhance her cultivation in the Dragon Palace. When Sun Qingxue finished absorbing and stood up, Yang Chun could already feel the tribulation clouds gathering outside the Dragon Palace. Without any preparation, Sun Qingxue stepped out of the Dragon Palace confidently. On the ground of the Chunyang Palace, she faced thousands of heaven's tribulations and threw herself into it. The cultivators who were lucky enough to watch the ceremony didn't see Sun Qingshue's figure. They only saw countless heavenly tribulations rushing madly in one direction, and then they felt a strong vitality, thriving. All the heavenly tribulations seemed to have become a great tonic, and one by one, they were thrown into that vitality. Finally, the tribulation clouds dissipated, and the cultivators in the distance only saw a graceful figure. The figure did not stay for long and disappeared quickly, causing the cultivators to keep discussing. Looking at the level of heaven's tribulation, it should be a human immortal tribulation. However, looking at the number of heaven's tribulations, no one knew what realm it should be. As for who was going through the tribulation, no one knew. Sun Qingxue, who rushed back to the Dragon Palace, could not hide the joy on her face. The increase in cultivation was not a big deal. What was important was that she was very clear that the Jade Dragon Coiled Blood Demon Vine had only absorbed less than half of the blood of the two Dragon Clan experts. There was still great potential for it to improve in the future. Ao Lan and Ao Lai finally began to temper the Dragon Coiled grass. Like Xiao Tian, their whole body was entangled by the Dragon Coiled grass and could not move. Then, under such a situation, they tried everything to resist. This situation was like dancing with shackles. However, when Ao Lai completely adapted to the Dragon Coiled grass and was no longer affected by it, he believed that Ao Lai could also enter the Xian Immortal realm. Xiao Tian was lucky to get Ao Lan and Ao Lai's life essence. He directly entered the Dragon Pagoda to refine it. If Ao Lan and Ao Lai's life essence could be completely refined, Xiao Tian's cultivation could definitely rush to the Heaven Immortal realm. Yang Chun did not fall behind the benefits. The Emu Flying Sword, which was the Blood Demon Vine Flying Sword, ate a dragon's blood meal, and then became the Great Yin Yang Five Elements Flying Sword, the most lethal flying sword. When a Xian Immortal encountered a body of flesh and blood, as long as the Emu Flying Sword cut the skin, it was inevitable that all the blood in the body would be sucked out in an instant. Even a Xian Immortal Realm expert would inevitably be eaten by the Blood Demon Vine Flying Sword, causing the opponent's combat power to plummet. In the peace of the spiritual world, Yang Chen's family continued to cultivate calmly and orderly. Yang Chen's spiritual sense cultivation was also rising steadily, getting closer to the edge of splitting again. Chapter 2027. In the past 2 years, the spiritual world had been calm, and the Zhao family had not made any trouble. Perhaps they were being watched closely, so it was not easy for the Zhao family to come out. In the past, when there was a trial site, a large area was not restricted, so the Zhao family could come and go as they pleased. Now there was no trial site as a buffer, and only the invisible barrier was left as the boundary between the two sides. If they were watched closely, it was not easy for them to come out. However, There was nothing absolute in the world. The invisible barrier alone was hundreds of thousands of miles long. Even if the major sect watched it closely, it was impossible for them to completely guard it. Moreover, no one dared to use their divine sense there, lest they were killed by the invisible barrier. This also led to the surveillance being just a superficial job. If the Zhao family really wanted to come out, they had a way. The only possibility was that the Zhao family had been greatly weakened after losing more than 3,000 core masters. These days, they were also recuperating and storing up energy, waiting for the day to come out. The more it was like this, the more the major sect dared not to take it lightly. Each sect had thousands of Xian immortal masters secretly guarding the sect at all times, for fear of being raided by the Zhao family. According to the situation that the Zhao family had shown before, if they concentrated their strength to raid a sect, the result would probably be different. The major sect had a lot of assets, so they were naturally very nervous to prevent trouble. However, other small sect was different. Anyway, as long as the other side had the intention, they could destroy their sect at any time, so there was no such pressure. Such a small sect also needed someone who could take a fancy to it. Chunyang Palace was a little embarrassed. It was not big, but it was not small either. It could barely be regarded as a first-class sect, but the number of top masters was still too few. This could not be solved in a short time. After all, Chunyang Palace had only been in the spiritual world for 1,000 years, and its foundation was too weak. Fortunately, there was an earth dragon, which built the core gate in the belly of the earth dragon. It could move around the spiritual veins at any time, and it was born with the instinct of hiding. If there was an emergency, the disciples of Chunyang Palace could avoid disaster if they were clever, but it was hard to say for the gate. From the beginning to the present, the gate of Chunyang Palace had been destroyed several times, and even the disciples of Chunyang Palace had gotten used to it. If one were to talk about the sect that had the most mountain gates destroyed in the spiritual realm, it would probably be the Chunyang Palace. The Zhao family had given up, and all the other parties were eager for that to happen. Although the sect's losses weren't as great as the Zhao clans, they were, after all, hundreds of Xian immortal experts. How much resources would it take to nurture one of them? Even the loss of one disciple was enough to make the major sect's hearts ache, let alone losing hundreds of disciples at once. The irreconcilable hatred had been sown, and now all that was left was to wait for the final showdown. The major sects had also sent out many formation masters to study the Zhao family's barrier. Once the barrier was broken, it was the moment of life and death for both sides. Yangshan did not care about this. In his memory, the heart-refining pill only appeared 200 years after the demonic calamity. The heart refinement pill was popular for more than 100 years before it was discovered that there was a problem with it. In this life, all these had changed, and even Yangshan did not know what would happen in the future. Fortunately, although some big things had changed, some things would not change. For example, some hidden immortals' caves, some hidden magic weapons, which had not appeared in the world, were basically still in their original places, waiting for Yangshan to pick them up. In Yangshan's memory, there were still a few good places that could be called sanctuary blessings. Now that there was no demonic calamity, and there were no crazy monsters all over the place, it was just the right time to collect them. The Immortals' caves in the sect were enough. So these Immortals' caves were suitable to be used to expand the world of the Mountain River geographical map. Anyway, Yangshan had made up his mind. If the third primordial spirit wanted to be the artifact spirit of the Mountain River geographical map, then everything must be arranged. Yangshan had a feeling that perhaps after becoming the artifact spirit of the Mountain River geographical map, comprehending the heavenly Tao would be a great opportunity. As Yangshan's spiritual awareness cultivation became stronger and stronger, the Mountain River geographical map was getting closer and closer to becoming an independent world. Some things had to be planned as early as possible. The Mountain River geographical map would be integrated with the heavenly tribulation sooner or later. It would be too late to plan after the heavenly tribulation. So many things had to be done in advance. The palace master of the Chunyang Palace in the mortal world, Shanghai Feng, had already ascended. At the same time, several of Yang Chen's friends, Wang Yuan, Du Qian, and several servants who first served Yang Chen, Shunda, Gu Kun, He Lian, and Yuan Ting, also ascended. At the same time, there were also a large number of younger disciples, and there were also many in the Hall of Eccentrics. In terms of cultivation, they were at the bottom of the spiritual world, the human immortal grade 2 and grade 3, which was much worse than Yang Chen in the past. However, when these people were combined, they were a complete high-level core of the Chunyang Palace. Of course, this referred to when they were in the mortal world. In the spiritual world, if this group of people wanted to stand out, it was estimated that they could only wait for the palace master Wang Yong and the other older generation to ascend, but Yang Chen did not want to waste their talents. As a result, this group of people entered the Mountain River geographical map. Sooner or later, the Mountain River geographical map would be a world, so the billions of spiritual world natives inside could not be wasted. This group of Yang Chen's friends and disciples, after entering the Mountain River geographical map, could display their talents. In the mortal world of the Mountain River geographical map, these people would continue to form the Chunyang Palace, or they would set up their own sections. In the end, those who had a foundation among the spiritual world natives were recruited into their respective sects and instructed them in their cultivation. When the time came, various heavenly tribulations would descend, and so many spiritual world natives would be the reserved disciples of the Chunyang Palace in the future. As soon as this idea was put forward to discuss with the palace master and the others immediately raised their hands in favor. For many years, they have been looking forward to the Chunyang Palace to flourish. With such a good opportunity in front of them, how could they miss it? If it weren't for the fact that the Mountain River geographical map was still incomplete, the palace master even had the intention to move the entire Chunyang Palace into the Mountain River geographical map. Last time, Big Brother Li Cheng reminded him that the heavenly law would sometimes be very balanced. So not only did he send these people into the Mountain River geographical map to let them toss and turn, Yang Chen did not forget to let Lady Fanghua and the maids also select suitable people to enter. Of course, the Old Tree Demon and Ho Yun, Shi Kuei, and Xie Sha, who were interested, could also enter at will. In a world, there could not only be Dao sex, demon sex, and monster race. Fortunately, when Gong Sunling collected those creatures in the past, all kinds of animals and plants were involved. As long as the time was right, it was not a problem for the monster race to thrive. The forces of the demon sect and monster race inside were very small, but Yang Chen was not worried. The core of the demon continent must be a demon world, and the exit of the monster beast space must be a monster world. When the time comes to refine and integrate them one by one, Yang Chen would have to worry that the power of the Dao sects was not big enough. With these, basically, the prototype of a small world was ready, only waiting for the moment when Yang Chen took charge of the heavenly law. Chapter 2028. In the past few days, Yang Chen found that his spirit sense was close to the peak of Xian Immortal when he was dual cultivating with the girls. He was only a step away from entering the Golden Immortal level. The girls' spirit sense had also improved, and all of them had entered the peak of Xian Immortal level. Now, only Yang Chen, Gao Yu, and Shi Shanshan were still in the human immortal level. In addition to Yang Chen, Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan were already at the peak of human immortal level and were only one step away from entering the earth immortal level. Just when Yang Chen's spirit sense finally broke through the bottleneck of Xian Immortal and rushed into the Golden Immortal level, Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan finally broke through, and the tribulation cloud came at the same time. The two girls were not afraid at all and went through the tribulation at the same time. The power of the tribulation had more than doubled because of this. To the surprise of all the cultivators watching the ceremony, the two girls' tribulation this time was even more dangerous than Sun Qingshue's tribulation. The number of tribulation was also 10 times more than Sun Qingshue's. Gao Yu's water and fire dragon armor surrounded her body, and countless tribulation would disappear when they hit it, as if they were swallowed by the two swords. But Gao Yu did not resist at all. All her mind was controlling the two swords to absorb the power of the heavenly realm and carry out a unique sacrificial refinement. As for the tribulation that fell on Gao Yu, as soon as it got close, it would be shattered by the sword light that suddenly emerged from Gao Yu's body and then completely integrated into her body. These sword lights were the 100 Spirits battle armor that Yang Chun gave to Gao Yu later. The reason why Gao Yu did not improve her cultivation was because she had to sacrifice the water and fire dragon armor and the 100 Spirits battle armor at the same time. On the other side, countless tribulation also surrounded Shi Shanshan. Shi Shanshan's whole body has been incarnated into a pure and incomparable sword light. All the heavenly tribulations that surrounded her were forced to several feet away by this sword light and could not move forward. With the passage of time, there were more and more heavenly tribulations outside Shi Shanshan's body, directly turning into a huge heavenly tribulation cocoon, wrapping Shi Shanshan in it, only waiting for the last one to break the cocoon and become a butterfly. The horrifying heavenly tribulation lasted for a day and a night, longer than anyone had imagined, to the astonishment of all the cultivators who were watching the ceremony. In the end, both Gao Yu and the 100 Spirit battle armor let loose a joyful cry, and all of the heavenly tribulations around them were absorbed by Gao Yu, the dragon horns, and the 100 Spirit battle armor. It was as if she had been reborn and became incomparably elegant. As for Shi Shanshan, the heavenly tribulation had already wrapped her up tightly. At the same time as Gao Yu finished, the sky on Shi Shanshan's side suddenly flashed, and a sword chi cut through the giant cocoon and shot straight to the sky. All the heavenly tribulations were smashed by this sword chi and turned into the purest energy, which was absorbed by the sword chi and then returned to Shi Shanshan's body. The tribulation clouds in the sky seemed to be destroyed by the sword chi and disappeared in an instant, leaving only two unreachable beautiful figures floating in the air. Then the two beautiful figures flashed and disappeared. "Husband, you have the worst cultivation." Sun Qingxue watched Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan return to the Dragon Palace and immediately began to tease her husband mischievously. As a result, she was hugged by Yang Chun in his arms, spanked her buttocks, and then kissed several times before letting go. After everyone congratulated Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan, they all looked at Yang Chun. All the women knew that Yang Chun had broken through, so the next step should be to split his divine awareness, and then his third primordial spirit would enter the mountain river geographical map as the device spirit. "Big brother, what should I do next?" Yang Chun turned to Li Cheng and asked for advice. Over the years, Li Cheng had not gone out to do his own things, and everyone knew that he was waiting for this moment for Yang Chun. Li Cheng did not answer Yang Chun directly, but asked Gong Sunling to send everyone to the mountain river geographical map. "All of you can only watch, only listen, not speak, not move. Can you do it?" Li Cheng directly asked the women around Yang Chun. It was related to the safety of their husband. This request was really simple, and the women nodded and agreed. I mean, no matter what happens. Seeing that the women agreed so easily, Li Cheng was not so relieved and immediately emphasized again. "Even if you see your husband about to die, you can't act rashly. Can you do it?" Li Cheng's words made the women shocked, but out of trust in their husband and brother Li Cheng, everyone nodded and agreed. A cultivator's cultivation itself was very dangerous, and those who did not dare to take this little risk were not worthy of being called cultivators. "I will set up an array and use the billions of spiritual wisdom in the entire mountain river geographical map to help you understand some of the most basic rules of the heavenly Tao." After telling the women, Li Cheng began to tell Yang Chun, "You will cultivate to the 6th level in the array. There is only one requirement. No matter what you experience, you must always remember who you are. Once you lose yourself, you are likely to never wake up and become a lost spirit in the mountain river geographical map." Li Cheng reiterated the seriousness of the problem. "With your current cultivation, the possibility of success is not high. Are you sure you want to continue?" "Husband, don't." Hearing Li Cheng's words, the women were shocked and tried to dissuade him, especially Gong Sunling. It did not matter if the mountain river geographical map could not become an independent world, but she could not lose her husband. Now everyone began to ponder. Even the Dragon Clan who refined this mountain river geographical map spent 3 Dragon Clan masters as dragon spirits, and still did not refine the mountain river geographical map into a world. Yang Chun wanted to complete such a feat with a mere human immortal cultivation. It was really a bit like an ant trying to shake a tree. How could it be easy? If you don't do this, use your 3rd primordial spirit as the spirit of the alchemy furnace. In the future, even in the immortal world, you will have a position as a master. Li Cheng's words were more persuasive, and what he said hit Yang Chen's heart. But even if you do this, there's not much benefit. It is nothing more than a shelter for your family. At most, it will make Ah Ling's magic weapon more powerful. But once you fail, everything has nothing to do with you. You will become a lost Turing, or 2. Li Cheng's voice was full of persuasion. This is not something you have to do. Are you sure you want to do this? When the women heard this, they completely disagreed. Not to mention the possibility of success. The key was that the gains and losses were completely disproportionate. It was not worth it for her husband to do this. Life was very good now. No one wanted to see her husband in danger, especially Gong Sunling. She was even more unwilling to let her husband fall into such a situation for her own magic weapon. Li Cheng did not stop the women's dissuasion, but just quietly waited for Yang Chun to make a decision. Facing the dissuading eyes and words of his wives and concubines, Yang Chun could not help but hesitate in his heart. Chapter 2029. Yang Chun looked at Li Cheng, but Li Cheng didn't give him any hint. It seemed that this kind of thing had to be decided by himself. The 3 dragon spirits all failed. This was not speculation, but a lesson learned from the mistakes of the past. Therefore, the 3 dragon spirits became lost spirits, trapped in a mountain river geographical map, and could never get out. It was easy to think that the cultivation base of the 3 dragon spirits must have been stronger than Yang Chen's current cultivation base. The things that the old Dragon King refined would never be inferior to Swindle, not to mention that this was a world for the dragon race. It could be said that the risk must be great, and it was unimaginably great. Otherwise, Big Brother Li Cheng wouldn't have warned him so seriously. Brotherly, is it that the more spirits in the mountain river geographical map, the greater the possibility of success for my husband? Gong Sunling saw that there was no way to dissuade her husband immediately, so she immediately thought of a way to beat around the bush and asked aloud. Indeed, Li Cheng nodded and replied, the more spirits that are enlightened, the more powerful the formation will be, and the more it will allow Yang Chun to comprehend the way of heaven. Now there are more than 20 billion natives in the mountain river geographical map. Brotherly, do you think this number is enough? Gong Sunling was overjoyed and immediately asked in surprise. Isn't it only a few billion? Not only Li Cheng, but even Yang Chun was a little surprised. The number of natives collected before didn't seem to exceed 10 billion. How many years has it been? The joy on Gong Sunling's face was obvious. There have been no disasters in the mountain river geographical map these years. The land is vast and the population is sparse. After so many years, those natives have multiplied for several generations. This was an unexpected good thing. More than 10 billion more spirits out of thin air would naturally be of great help to Yang Chen's comprehension of the way of heaven. But, looking at Gong Sunling's surprise, Li Cheng really didn't want to say something that would ruin the scenery. But some words must be said in front of him, although the possibility of comprehending the heavenly law is greater. But relatively, the difficulty is higher. The possibility of Yang Chun getting lost in it is also higher. Gong Sunling didn't expect such a result, and her eyes suddenly turned red. Even though she was already an expert in the Earth Immortal realm, she couldn't help but act like a little girl when her husband was risking his life. Not only Gong Sunling, but the other women also turned pale. If it really was that dangerous, then there was no need for her husband to take such a risk for an illusory world that even the Dragon Clan had abandoned. However, no one dares to make decisions for Yang Chun. Even Gao you can only suggest. Using his master's identity, even if he ordered him not to do it this time, it would inevitably leave a thorn in Yang Chen's heart. Everyone here was a cultivator, so they knew this very well. Once he flinched this time, he would have a reason and habit to flinch the next time. When this kind of flinching became the norm, it would also mean that Yang Qin's mental cultivation would no longer have any progress. Everything depended on Yang Qin's own ideas. Looking at everyone's worried eyes, but they didn't dare to dissuade him too much, Yang Qin turned to elder brother Li Cheng, looked at his expressionless face, closed his eyes, and began to weigh. In fact, Yang Qin didn't weigh it for a long time, because when he just closed his eyes, Yang Qin understood. To put it bluntly, it was his own confidence in himself. At this time, it was actually a lack of confidence in himself. However, Yang Qin couldn't think of any reason for his lack of confidence. Whether it was the Golden Body Secret Art or the Three Purities Secret Art, they were miracles that could seize the heaven and earth, not to mention that he was reborn after death. Since so many miracles have happened, what's the harm in one more? Elder Brotherly Chung seemed to have been emphasizing the risk of this move, but in fact he was not reminding himself that he should have something to worry about. Just now, he also said that once he couldn't remember who he was, he could only get lost in the mountain river geographical map and become one or two lost touring spirits. Why couldn't he remember who he was? Unless he entered a state of forgetfulness. Why would he forget himself? Because there was no concern, he would devote himself to it. Yang Qin asked himself that he had a lot of beautiful wives and beautiful maids. He couldn't give up any of them. So how could he be desperate? In this way, elder brotherly Chung was not trying to hit his confidence at all, but telling him the means to deal with it. Thinking about it, elder brother Li Chung could even recognize the Three Purities Secret Art. How could he not know the power of the Three Purities Secret Art? Opening his eyes, Yang Qin smiled and said a few words, "Let's do it." After that, he looked at elder brother Li Chung and bowed. "Thank you for your advice, elder brother." The women hadn't figured out what was going on, but Li Chung smiled and nodded. There were many things that made him satisfied with Yang Qin, but the most worry-free thing was his understanding. Yang Qin could figure it out by himself, which saved Li Chung a lot of trouble. Now, even if everyone couldn't figure it out, they were clear about one thing. Elder brother Li Chung was not attacking Yang Qin at all, but giving advice. "Elder brother Li, is there a good chance that my husband will succeed now?" Everyone relaxed, and Gao Yu immediately asked elder brother Li Chung. On the contrary, Li Chung smiled. "It is because he understood that the power of the formation will be greater and the danger of your husband will multiply. Don't worry." Yang Qin walked to Gao Yu and gently embraced her. "As long as you are here, no matter how dangerous it is, I can come out." As he spoke, Yang Qin hugged his wives and concubines one by one. He did not even let go of Lady Feng Hua and those maids. Finally, facing elder sister Ao Lan, Yang Qin was no exception and gave her a big hug. Although it was a dragon body, Ao Lan did not refuse. When it was Ao Lai's turn, Yang Qin did not continue. Instead, he gently punched him. Walking to elder brother Li Chung again, Yang Qin nodded seriously and said, "Elder brother, I am ready. We can begin." Li Chung also nodded and did not say anything. He only extended his hand and gestured for the women to move back, opening up a 300-meter area. Li Chung extended his hand, and hundreds of formation flags appeared in his hand. They were densely packed on the ground, forming a huge Taiji diagram of yin-yang fish. "Aling, gather at least 200 heavenly immortal grade spirit veins here," Li Chung instructed. Gong Sunling immediately transferred 400 heavenly immortal grade spirit veins over. After thinking about it, she was afraid that it was not enough, so she transferred another 100 over. Only then did she relax slightly. Under Li Cheng's indication, Yang Qin walked to the center of the formation flags and sat down in a lotus position, quietly waiting for elder brother Li Chung to activate the formation. Chapter 2030. Remember, don't forget to ask yourself at any time. Before Li Chung started, he reminded Yang Qin again. "Who are you?" "Remember." Yang Qin nodded and closed his eyes. According to Li Cheng's instructions, he began to cultivate the 6th level of the Three Purities Secret Art. This was something he didn't dare to think about when he was in the mortal world. Who would have thought that he could cultivate the Three Purities Secret Art to the 6th level in just 2,000 years? This was the cultivation method of the Tao ancestor. Li Cheng waved his hand and made a gesture. Suddenly, the 500 heaven immortal level spiritual veins shone brightly, and countless spiritual power poured into the array flags. Hundreds of array flags flashed with a dazzling light, and the whole thing condensed into a complete Tai Chi diagram, slowly rotating. The moment the Tai Chi diagram began to rotate, the entire mountain river geographical map seemed to suddenly shake. Except for the people present, all the intelligent creatures fell into a state of sluggishness on the spot. Even those Xian immortal level experts were no exception. This was not all. Immediately afterward, as long as there was life, it began to slowly emit light. Then there were lifeless stones, soil, rivers, and so on. Finally, the entire mountain river geographical map began to emit a faint light. All the light was concentrated on the top of the Tai Chi diagram, forming a huge pattern. This pattern wasn't static, but it was slowly changing. Look, how much you can comprehend depends on your own comprehension, Big Brother Li Cheng told everyone. Then he took the lead to sit down and looked up at the changing light pattern. This is the pattern derived from the great Tao. It would be a pity to miss it. Everyone sat down according to his words, looked up at the pattern derived from the great Tao, and fell into deep thought. However, Li Cheng also noticed that among so many people, except for Ao Lan and Ao Lai, all the women looked at the pattern derived from the great Tao for a while, thought for a while, and then paid attention to the situation on Yang Chen's side. It was obvious that they were still worried about Yang Chen. Li Cheng didn't say anything about this. How much one could comprehend depended on one's luck, and it couldn't be forced. Yang Chen only felt a white light directly penetrate his sea of consciousness. Fortunately, his sea of consciousness had already become the soaring Heaven King Palace and was extremely sturdy. Otherwise, that attack earlier would have been enough to scatter his sea of consciousness. Soon after, Yang Chen realized that he seemed to have become an incomparably small insect, living a difficult life. The life of the insect was extremely short, but it was also a complete life. Soon, his life came to an end. Yang Chen didn't even know what his current state was. He only remembered Li Cheng's reminder, asking him who he was. Then, he remembered that he was Yang Chen. As soon as he thought of this, Yang Chen immediately entered another state of life. This time, it turned into a similarly tiny mosquito. It was still a short but complete life. After the mosquito died, Yang Chen asked himself who he was as usual. He remembered that he was Yang Chen and that he had a bunch of beautiful wives and concubines waiting for him. In the blink of an eye, he became a mayfly again. There were all kinds of life states, and Yang Chen experienced each and every one of their complete lives. Although these lives were short, they were very complete. Even if it was only for a moment, it made Yang Chen clearly think that he was the insect or the mosquito mayfly. At the beginning, these lives were very short, and Yang Chen still had the time to think about other things. Selfish and distracting thoughts quickly appeared in Yang Chen's mind. No wonder Big Brother Li Cheng repeatedly stressed that he needed to remember who he was. If he indulged in this state and forgot himself, he would really think that he was another life form, lost in the geographical map of the mountains and rivers. He didn't know how the 3 dragon spirits got lost. If they used the same method as Yang Chen, then what kind of life did they get lost in? This was something that Yang Chen was curious about. But soon, Yang Chen didn't have the energy to be curious and let his imagination run wild. As he experienced more and more lives, Yang Chen immersed himself in other lives longer and longer, and he became more and more focused on living. Moths, mosquitoes, flies, dragonflies, cicadas, praying mantises. Each time, a different life form, more and more advanced and longer lives. The lifespan that was originally just a few moments slowly became a few breaths, a few hours a day, a few days, a few months, a few years. Soon, Yang Chen didn't know the passage of time. In the end, Yang Chen didn't know how much time had passed. He just instinctively remembered that in every life cycle, he would ask himself who he was, and then he remembered the answer. He was Yang Chen, and there was a bunch of beautiful wives and concubines waiting for him to return. This seemed to have become a reincarnation. Yang Chun was comprehending one life form after another, and the women outside were also comprehending the evolution of the heavenly Tao. The Great Tao evolution diagram was too esoteric, too broad and profound, so that everyone quickly became addicted to it. However, what surprised Li Cheng was that every fixed period of time, no matter which woman, they would pay attention to the changes in Yang Chen over there. Seeing that he was fine, everyone would continue to observe. If there were any changes on Yang Chen's side, they would wait until everything stabilized before continuing. They were extremely concerned. Looking at all this, Li Cheng didn't say anything, and there was no expression on his face. He just stared at the Great Tao evolution diagram in silence. No one could see what he was thinking in his heart and whether what they did was right or wrong. The mountain river geographical map had been completely affected by this formation, and everything in it had become a tool to help Yang Chun comprehend the heavenly Tao. Only Gong Sunling, the owner of the mountain river geographical map, could really understand how terrifying Li Cheng's formation was. It must be known that Gong Sunling was the owner of the mountain river geographical map, and this was her life source magic weapon. However, under Big Brother Li Cheng's formation, the mountain river geographical map had completely lost control. Don't look at how many creatures had been absorbed by the mountain river geographical map, and how many cave spaces have been integrated. In front of Li Cheng's formation, all of this was simply like a child who had no power to fight back. Fortunately, Big Brother Li Cheng was a friend of her husband. Otherwise, whoever had an opponent like Big Brother Li Cheng, it was estimated that they would have nightmares for the rest of their lives. Time flew, not to mention Yang Chun. Even the women had no concept of the passage of time, except for paying attention to Yang Chun from time to time, which they would not forget. Everything else had been completely forgotten, and they were completely immersed in the changes of the diagram of the Great Tao evolution. Yang Chun had also experienced the life process of millions of creatures, each of which was clear and complete, and what was more terrifying was that it was real. Sometimes Yang Chun really thought that he was that kind of life, and he lived completely according to that kind of life. After remembering who he was, Yang Chen's vision blurred, and he suddenly found that he had become a dragon. Chapter 2031. The dragon race could almost be said to be the strongest species in the three realms. They were talented, and from the moment they were born, they were stronger than ordinary creatures. They had a long lifespan and could be said to be the perfect creature. Yang Chun immediately immersed himself in the life of the dragon race. Although Yang Chun was experiencing the life of the dragon race, this dragon was not controlled by Yang Chun. Strictly speaking, Yang Chun was just an observer immersed in it. Experience, and not really become. The dragon race had a long lifespan. Even if they did not cultivate, it would still take tens of thousands of years. Yang Chun had been living with the thinking of the dragon race. It was not until his lifespan was about to end that he remembered to ask himself who he was. This time, Yang Chun was very clear that he was Yang Chun. He was comprehending the heavenly Tao, and there were beautiful wives and concubines waiting for his return outside. Surprisingly, after the life of the dragon race, it did not immediately go to the next reincarnation, but stopped for a long time. This made Yang Chun very surprised. It was just that he had experienced so many reincarnations, and after so many years his brain had become a little numb, and he could not remember anything. Suddenly, Yang Chen's mind hurt, as if someone was using a big knife to cut his head in half. Even though Yang Chun had suffered 2 spiritual consciousness splitting, this time it was extraordinarily painful. It was almost like he was forcibly tearing himself apart. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Chun realized his state. The spiritual consciousness splitting was obviously very successful. No matter what he did, Yang Chun now had 2 minds, and the 2 minds are like one, thinking the same thing. Could it be that after the spiritual consciousness splitting was done? Soon, Yang Chun understood that things were not so simple. The terrifying reincarnation began again. However, what was different from the beginning was that this reincarnation had added the content of cultivation. In all the previous reincarnations, those creatures were born naturally, grew naturally, and died naturally. Everything was a natural process. This time, the cultivation process of each kind of life was added. This was not all. One of the primordial spirits was immersed in the process of cultivation, which was the third primordial spirit. It was also this primordial spirit that participated in the cultivation, while the main body of Yang Chen's consciousness was still awake. As an observer, he felt and understood the reincarnation of the gods. Having experienced the life process of each kind of creature, even cultivation was not difficult for Yang Chen. Fortunately, Yang Chen was well-read, and he had an impression of all kinds of cultivation techniques of the monster race. Combining it with the normal process of life, cultivation was not so difficult. No matter what kind of creature it was, the third primordial soul would soon be able to find the most suitable cultivation method. Even if it was the tiniest moth centipede, it didn't matter how short its lifespan was. Perhaps it was the restriction of Big Brotherly Chung. Perhaps it was the limit of the mountain river geographical map, or perhaps it was the shackles of Yang Chen himself. Every creature could only cultivate to the peak of fairy immortal at most. Even so, the reincarnation time of each creature was extended by thousands of times. His main body was always observing. Sometimes, he would involuntarily immerse himself in various kinds of cultivation, but every time at a critical moment, he would always remember Brother Li Cheng's instructions. He would always remember that he was Yang Chen, and that he still had beautiful wives and beautiful concubines waiting for him to return. When he thought of this, Yang Chen's main body would wake up and regain his senses. However, he would soon immerse himself in observing and cultivating again. In the beginning, it was just those tiny life forms. Later, it was some insects, and then all kinds of demon beasts. The lifespans of these life forms grew longer, and their cultivation paths were different. Their aptitudes were different as well. Cultivating up to the peak of the heavenly immortal stage would always take a very long time. Outside the array formation, the women had lost track of how much time had passed. They just looked at Yang Chen's figure in fear. They were worried, but did not dare to make any sound, nor did they dare to disturb Yang Chen in other ways. Big Brotherly Chung had said that this was a critical moment. If he could endure it, he would endure it. If he could not, he would get lost. His body would turn incorporeal and become a lost spirit. Seeing that their husband's body had already turned into a faint image, the women had tears in their eyes. However, they did not dare to disturb him. They could only watch helplessly, cheering for their husband in their hearts. They did not even bother to observe the materialization of the great Tao. On the other hand, Ao Lan and Ao Lai were still immersed in the materialization of the great Tao, unable to extricate themselves. They did not make any movements at all. Yang Chen's image, which had nearly disappeared, was suddenly replenished with spiritual energy and regained its physical form. This meant that their husband could endure it safely this time. However, before the women could rejoice, Yang Chen immediately entered another cycle. His physical body started to slowly turn incorporeal again. This process repeated countless times. The women only felt fearful over and over again. At most, they would only take a few quick glances at the materialization of the great Tao when Yang Chen was enduring it. When Yang Chen had any problems, everyone's gaze would still be focused on Yang Chen. They did not know how many opportunities they had wasted. Li Chung did not remind them or rush them. He just watched like that. It seemed like he was the least nervous and the most leisurely. Even when he had free time, he did not forget about his own cultivation. He appeared to be very satisfied. Right now, the most troublesome thing for Yang Chen was that he could not tell which was the real him. Fortunately, he could always remind himself that he was Yang Chen. This allowed him to guard his final bit of intelligence and not lose himself. The main body and the third primordial spirit were sometimes confused with each other. Yang Chen also had to distinguish the position of his main body and the obsession of the third primordial spirit. All kinds of cultivation methods appeared in the main body and the third primordial spirit at the same time. There would only be slight differences when it was implemented. As Big Brother Li Chung reminded, as the life of cultivation became more and more advanced and powerful, Yang Chen's main body must always ask himself who he was and then give the right answer. Otherwise, he would be lost if he was not careful. The most dangerous time was when he transformed into a tiger demon and cultivated to the peak of the earth immortal realm. However, he could not break through. His main body and the third primordial spirit began to think of ways to break through the bottleneck at the same time. There was even a time when his main body had the upper hand and replaced the third primordial spirit to control the tiger demon's cultivation. Fortunately, he reacted in time and gave the control to the third primordial spirit when he was about to slide into the abyss. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the eyes of the women outside, at that time, Yang Chun was only a faint, almost indistinct phantom. It was about to disappear as if it would be blown away by the wind. Fortunately, he condensed his physical body at the last moment. That time, the women were almost scared out of their wits. In this seesaw process, Yang Chen's reincarnation of cultivation finally ended with him transforming into a dragon and cultivating to the peak of the heaven immortal realm. This also made Yang Chen experience the difference in the cultivation of the dragon race. Chapter 2032. Unfortunately, he had only cultivated the dragon race to the peak of the celestial immortal stage, so he had not exhausted the natural lifespan of the dragon race. This time, the process was even shorter than the last time. Yang Chen's main body knew very well who he was, and his third primordial spirit also knew his state. He thought that this was the end, but after resting for less than 2 days, another completely different experience began. This time, whether it was his main body or his third primordial spirit, they were no longer living beings, but had become inanimate objects. It was either a towering mountain or a winding river. Sometimes it would be a magnificent sea, and sometimes it would be an ethereal white cloud. When it was big, it would be a towering pillar that reached the sky, and when it was small, it would be an insignificant speck of dust. These things were not living beings. Be it Yang Chen's main body or his third primordial spirit, they had transformed into these things. There was no feeling, no movement, and they could only experience the vicissitudes of life in such a boring manner. They could casually experience tens of millions of years at a time, and that kind of feeling could really drive people crazy. Sometimes, whether they turned into water droplets, rivers, seas, or even white clouds, they could still move according to the terrain or the direction of the wind. If they transformed into a stubborn rock and stayed in one place for years, if their state of mind was not stable enough, they would directly be tortured to death by this kind of boredom. In the eyes of the women, Yang Chen also seemed to have become a stone statue. He sat still, and his body was clearly turning into stone bit by bit. It was always at the last moment that he could return to his original husband. During this period, the women did not know how many tears they secretly swallowed. In particular, Gong Sunling saw that her husband was risking his life for his magic treasure, and she wished that she could be in his place. Her love for her husband directly rushed to the peak. After an unknown amount of time, Yang Chen's original body once again asked himself who he was. Before he could give an answer, his eyes lit up, and everything disappeared without a trace. He only saw himself sitting in the middle of the array flags, surrounded by the surprised and joyful eyes of the women. It was unknown how many billions of years had passed in Yang Chen's consciousness after this experience. He felt as if he had become numb to everything, temporarily unable to remember anything. He only remembered that he was still Yang Chen, and that he still had beautiful wives and beautiful concubines waiting for him to return. The strange look in Yang Chen's eyes shocked all the women, but they didn't dare to disturb him. They could only look at Li Cheng for help, hoping that he could think of a way. Li Cheng only glanced at him and said indifferently, "It's fine. He has experienced too much, and it has been too long. His brain can't react properly. Give him some time to adapt, and he'll be fine soon." Just as Li Cheng spoke, the hundreds of array flags began to turn yellow and wither like living things, as if they had experienced countless years. With a little wind around them, the array flags turned into powder and quickly disappeared in the wind. More than 200 of the 500 celestial grade spirit veins that Gong Sunling had specially moved over had been used up, and the remaining ones had more than half of their spiritual power absorbed. At this time, Li Cheng saw this and said a little embarrassedly, "Sorry, there was a miscalculation." At this time, how could the women care about Brother Li Cheng's small mistake? They all looked at Yang Chun with concern, waiting for him to recover. They were even more afraid that their husband would not recognize them after comprehending the heavenly Tao this time. Yang Chun finally slowly remembered that he wanted to comprehend the heavenly Tao, so he sat in the array set up by Brother Li Cheng and experienced a lot. It had been so long that he had forgotten a lot of things. He wanted to move his body, but found that because he had not moved for a long time, it seemed to have rusted. His whole body was numb, and he could only move slowly once or twice. After taking a few merit marrow pills and questioning inner heart pills together, Yang Chen's sedentary body began to slowly be nourished and recovered. This time, it had been too long. Even if he took a merit marrow pill at the beginning, the medicinal effect had long been lost. More and more things came back to his mind, and the various experiences in the big dream were slowly excluded. When the golden body secret art circulated and nourished his whole body a few times, his body temporarily returned to normal, and he could move freely. However, if he wanted to completely make up for the internal injuries and damage caused by sitting for a long time, he still needed further conditioning. Ayu Ling, looking at the worried faces not far away, Yang Chun smiled and called out the names of the women one by one. Every time he called out a name, a woman would nod with tears on her face. "I'm back. There's no need to worry," Yang Chan said to the women with a smile. After the women cried tears of joy, they rushed forward at the same time and surrounded Yang Chun. After Yang Chun comforted them, he comforted them. Finally, the women stopped crying and quieted down. "Ling, your husband is hungry. Shan Shan, prepare some fragrant tea for him to rinse his mouth. Xiao Shui, prepare good wine for me and Big Brother to have a good drink." After a series of instructions, the women happily answered loudly and quickly went to prepare. Only at this moment did Yang Chun turn to Big Brother Li Cheng. He smiled and said, "Big Brother, I'm back. Many thanks." Li Cheng waved his hand casually and didn't say anything. They were brothers in this world, and everything was understood without words. Although the great Tao derivation diagram had disappeared along with the formation, Ao Lan and Ao Lai were still immersed in their comprehension and could not extricate themselves. This was their fortuitous encounter. Yang Chun and the women did not intend to wake them up at this moment. They just minded their own business and celebrated. "How long has it been?" Yang Chun asked Big Brother Li Cheng. 300-odd years, Li Cheng answered casually, as though these 300 years were just an instant. "What about the Zhao clan?" This startled Yang Chun. Didn't that mean that the Zhao clan had already unified the spiritual realm after 300-odd years? "Don't worry. Their experts are tied down. They will not be able to make a move for at least a few hundred years," Li Cheng answered casually, telling Yang Chun not to worry. When Big Brother Li Cheng said that, Yang Chun finally relaxed. The moment he relaxed, he immediately felt incredibly tired, hungry, and thirsty. All sorts of delicacies were served up. Yang Chun and Li Cheng ate and drank to their heart's content, looking very bold and unrestrained. After eating and drinking, Li Cheng immediately got Gong Sunling to prepare a place with sufficient spiritual energy to recuperate. Although Li Cheng looked relaxed over the past few years, his mental exhaustion was no less than when he fought with tens of thousands of profound, immortal demonic beasts. "Wait for me to recuperate before we talk about the item spirit," Li Cheng instructed everyone before leaving. Right now, Yang Chun had only started to comprehend some of the heavenly Tao. He was still far from truly grasping it. Becoming the item spirit of the Mountain River geographical map still required further work. Li Cheng had to rest first. The rest of the time became Yang Chun and the women's. Chapter 2033. The worries and fears of the women for 300 years were now completely forgotten. Yang Chun simply indulged in debauchery, slept together, and sent the women to the peak one by one. When the women completely expressed their worries and grievances over the years and calmed down, Yang Chun began a new round of dual cultivation with them. They hadn't checked their cultivation before, but when they started the dual cultivation, everyone was shocked at the same time. Even Yang Chun didn't expect that his spiritual sense cultivation would soar to the peak of golden immortal in the past 300 years, and he almost entered the realm of great principle golden immortal. His spiritual power cultivation was relatively not particularly outstanding, and there was no heavenly tribulation in the mountain river geographical map, so there had been no heavenly tribulation over the years. Unknowingly, Yang Chen's cultivation had broken through to the 3rd grade of Earth Immortal. Compared to Yang Chen's breakthrough speed, the women's cultivation had increased a lot. Although everyone was worried about Yang Chen, the pattern of the Great Tao gave them a lot of inspiration, whether it was in spiritual power or spiritual sense cultivation. They had soared a lot. Lady Feng Hua and the maids had all surpassed the 1st grade of Heaven Immortal, but they hadn't crossed the tribulation yet. Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan had also rushed to the 5th grade of Earth Immortal. Gong Sunling was a 7th grade Earth Immortal, and Sun Qingxue was the most ruthless. She actually caught up with Gong Sunling and also reached the 7th grade of Earth Immortal. Tao Junkie was a 6th grade Earth Immortal, and she was the strongest in the human immortal stage, but now she was behind Gong Sunling and Sun Qingxue. Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters were also 5th grade Earth Immortal, and were on the same level as Gao Yu and Shi Shanshan. Zhou Xianying had long been a Heaven Immortal expert, and her spiritual power cultivation had not increased much over the years. It had only increased by a small realm and reached the 6th grade of Heaven Immortal. However, her spiritual sense cultivation had soared to the middle stage of Golden Immortal because of the revelation of the Great Tao. She even vaguely found that there seemed to be something strange in her sea of consciousness. Because she was worried about her husband's safety, Zhou Xianying had not carefully examined the changes in her sea of consciousness. After these matters were settled, Zhou Xianying wanted to find some time to go into seclusion and examine it carefully. What Yang Chun had learned over the years had not only increased his 3rd primordial spirit control over the Great Tao of Heaven, but more importantly, the cultivation process of countless different creatures had given Yang Chun great inspiration, allowing Yang Chun to have a further understanding of the golden body incantation that he had created himself. While Big Brother Li Cheng was recuperating, Yang Chun and the girls were dual cultivating while perfecting the golden body secret art again. The golden body secret art of the past was too domineering, to the extent that it was impossible to cultivate without merit. Even if he succeeded in cultivating it, that kind of overbearing cultivation method would cause great harm to the body. In the end, he couldn't get around the protection of merit. After Yang Chen's improvement, the golden body incantation finally eased a lot. Even if Yang Chen did not use any merit when he cultivated in the future, it would not cause any harm to his body. At the same time, the efficiency of cultivation increased, strengthening the effects of the heavenly dipper treasure refining art, the earth fiend sacrificial formation art, and the universe treasure nurturing art. It could be said that the improved golden body secret art simply used Yang Chen's body as a magic weapon to refine and maintain it, making the incomparably powerful body even more powerful, and the recovery ability after the injury was also greatly improved. This time, Big Brother Li Cheng's maintenance lasted for half a year. With his current cultivation, one could imagine the exhaustion of the formation from earlier. When Big Brother Li Cheng returned to the group, Ao Lan and Ao Lai were still in closed-door cultivation. The Great Tao derivation diagram was vast and profound. It held a fatal attraction for them. However, Ao Lan and Ao Lai did not disappoint Yang Chun. Even though they were in closed-door cultivation, they still got Sun Qingxue to use the Jade Dragon entangling blood, devouring demonic vine to bind them tightly and resist them. It was said that they had been like this since 300 years ago without any breaks. You girls only care about your husbands and do not focus on the Great Tao derivation diagram, missing out on many good opportunities. It is not worth it. When Li Cheng saw everyone's radiant faces, He could not help but shake his head. He expressed his regret that the girls only cared about Yang Chun and missed out on the great Tao derivation diagram. The girls knew that big brother Li Cheng had good intentions and did not argue. They just smiled and stood beside Yang Chun. It was like they did not care about missing out on the great fortuitous encounters. That might not be the case. Who knows, it might be a good thing, Yang Chun said to big brother Li Cheng while laughing. What do you mean? Big brother Li Cheng's interest was piqued. He asked, could it be that the heavenly Tao is not comparable to a two-legged person like you? Although the heavenly Tao is good, it is heartless after all. Yang Chun looked at the girls and said proudly, how can it be as valuable as my family? It is better to have emotions. If you miss out on the heavenly Tao, so be it. Is this your understanding? Li Cheng's interest was even greater. He looked at Yang Chun up and down and asked, and I have experienced a lot over the years and finally understood some principles. Yang Chun nodded and looked at the girls again. The pride in his eyes could not be erased no matter what. The girls also looked at Yang Chun affectionately, showing a loving expression. This scene made Li Cheng very speechless, and he shook his head. Big brother always said that the great Tao is the simplest. Yang Chun said in Li Cheng's words, in that case, let's cultivate the Tao according to the person. Don't think too much. All things in the world have their own Tao. It is reasonable for a wolf to eat a sheep, but it is disgraceful to put on a sheep's Tao. Yang Chun's words are not only for Li Cheng, but also for the girls. Since we are all humans, we should focus on cultivating the human Tao. Everything else is unorthodox. It is the same for the heavenly Tao. If you miss out on it, so be it. There's no need to feel pity. Hearing this, how could the girls not understand that their husband was dispelling their doubts and strengthening their Tao hearts? They were all geniuses and began to ponder. As long as they persisted in their Tao, there was no need to feel pity if they missed out on anything. Moreover, it might not be a blessing. I've only just figured this out. Yang Chun also realized that brother Li Cheng had asked that question just now, not only to let the girls strengthen their Tao hearts, but also to test what he had comprehended. My third essence, soul, will take away all my comprehension of the heavenly Tao. My main body will only leave my Tao heart unchanged. I am still me and have never changed. The more Yang Chun said, the clearer his thoughts became and the firmer his Tao heart became. He felt waves of clarity in his thoughts, and his consciousness seemed to have improved. Over the past few days of dual cultivation with the girls, Yang Chun's consciousness had dropped slightly to the 8th grade of the Golden Immortal. The girl's consciousness had risen to the 3rd grade of the Golden Immortal. As Li Cheng thought about it, Yang Chun's consciousness actually showed signs of breaking through to the 9th grade of the Golden Immortal. Chapter 2034. What about your 3rd primordial spirit? Big brother Li Cheng did not finish his sentence, but continued to ask. My Tao is the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao is my Tao. Yang Chun replied quickly without hesitation. I am the heavens. This sentence was really too arrogant, but no one present had the intention to laugh. Yang Chun's 3rd primordial spirit was originally going to control the heavenly Tao in a side of the world, so it was not arrogant at all to say this. You can start. Li Cheng nodded and said this. On Yang Chun's body, a phantom of Yang Chun suddenly appeared. In this phantom, there was also a black that exuding black gas and a huge ball. Together, they slowly floated out of Yang Chun's body and directly merged into the ground under his feet. Now, that everyone was originally in the mountain river geographical map, this phantom merged into the ground. In fact, it also merged into the mountain river geographical map. Except for Gong Sun Ling, everyone couldn't feel any changes. Only Gong Sun Ling could sense that the mountain river geographical map was adding a backbone, which is a very wonderful feeling. Suddenly, the wind and clouds began to surge between heaven and earth, and countless rays of light emerged from all directions. All the creatures that had been dormant because of Li Cheng's array seemed to be awakened at this moment, opened their eyes, and looked around in confusion. Countless rays of light wrapped the bodies of these creatures, and a large amount of spiritual power emerged between heaven and earth, beginning to nourish their bodies. All the creatures did not know what was happening. and they were passively receiving the baptism of the rays of light. There was only confusion in their hearts, but there was no panic. No one could tell what kind of feeling it was. The shadow of a huge palace appeared in the sky, and the 4 big words Ling Shao Palace on the palace plaque were abnormally clear. Before anyone could react, the palace quickly disappeared into the distant sky. Gongsun Ling felt at the deepest. The world in the mountain river geographical map that she has not explored yet seemed to be a roaring sound in the space on the upper layer, and then the world seemed to have a stable feeling like a pillar filling her sea of consciousness. Right in front of everyone's eyes, 3 huge dragon shadows suddenly appeared. These 3 dragons were so huge that their shadows directly filled up the entire spiritual world of the mountain river geographical map. The 3 dragon shadows seemed to be very irritable. As soon as they appeared, they roared crazily at the sky, as if they were challenging something. Then, Yangqin's phantom appeared again. Compared to the 3 dragons, Yangqin's figure was smaller than a grain of rice, but he looked more majestic than the 3 dragons. The silhouette of a dragon pounced forward, and the tiny Yangqin's silhouette jumped directly onto the dragon's head. It grabbed a small edge of the dragon's horn with one hand, clenched its small fist, and punched the dragon's head violently. On Yangqin's fist, it was not empty, but with a small black spot that exuded black gas. With each punch, the giant dragon trembled, and its figure became more and more illusory. After hundreds of punches in a row, the dragon's shadow finally couldn't hold on anymore. The tiny Yangqin grabbed the dragon's horn and swung it up, together with the small black, emitting black aura, and threw it to the lowest level of the mountain river geographical map, which was the layer of the mortal world. As soon as it touched the ground of the mortal world, the dragon's shadow quickly dissipated and completely integrated into that layer of space. The second dragon's shadow followed closely behind. This time it was not a small black that welcomed it, but a huge ball. Although the dragon's shadow was very huge, the illusory ball was not small either. Yangqin's shadow pinched a small corner of the ball, as if it was swinging Mount Tai, and smashed it down. The dragon's shadow was hit thousands of miles away with one blow. Yangqin's phantom seemed to be not satisfied, and directly chased after it with the ball. The dragon's shadow also tried its best to counterattack, but no matter what method it used, Yangqin's phantom only swung the ball and smashed it. Any move of the dragon's shadow would be smashed. After hundreds of consecutive smashes, the second dragon shadow no longer had the strength to fight back, and it was directly smashed into the ground by the ball and disappeared without a trace. Yangqin's phantom swung again, and the huge ball phantom was directly smashed into the ground of the spiritual realm and disappeared. When the second dragon disappeared completely, the third dragon shadow roared and rushed straight into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Yangqin's phantom also flew into the sky, chasing the dragon shadow for a while and disappeared. Only Gong Sunling could sense that there was a huge movement in the third space. It was estimated that Yangqin's phantom was fighting with the third dragon shadow. This still needed a process. When Yangqin completely conquered the third dragon shadow, it meant that he temporarily controlled the 3 realms in the mountain river geographical map and became a genuine tool spirit. With the tool spirit in charge of the primary heavenly law, the mountain river geographical map was one step closer to becoming a real world. Everything seemed to be very beautiful. Yangqin stood in place, feeling the battle between the third primordial spirit and the dragon spirit. It had to be said that the third dragon spirit was originally to control the immortal world, and its cultivation was extremely high. Under normal circumstances, the third primordial spirit, whose spiritual awareness cultivation was only at the peak of the golden immortal, would not be the opponent of the other party's great principal golden immortal. Unfortunately, although the other party's cultivation was high, it had no active consciousness and was lost in the mountain river geographical map for many years, greatly weakening its combat effectiveness. Yangqin's third primordial spirit had a steady stream of support from his main body and the second primordial spirit, and the more he fought, the braver he became. Even without any weapons, the dragon spirit was gradually not an opponent, and after being taught a hard lesson by Yang Chun, it lay dormant. Because there was no real space in the immortal world, in the end, the dragon spirit and the third primordial spirit could only stay in the Ling King Hall. This was also good. In the territory of Yang Chen's third primordial spirit, the dragon spirit could not turn over even if it had great abilities. The rays of light that nourished all the living beings finally stopped, and everything in the mountain river geographical map returned to normal. Whether it was the aborigines or the cultivators, they didn't seem to notice that they had been used by someone with a formation for more than 300 years. They still lived and cultivated as usual, and nothing had changed at all. Or it couldn't be said that. It seemed that after being nourished by the rays of light, the cultivation of all the living beings had improved. Maybe this was the reward given by the third primordial spirit to all the holy spirits here. Husband, what is that little black dot and ball? Gong Sunling was the first to feel the change. Since the third layer of space quieted down, the mountain river geographical map had a qualitative improvement. She could even perceive the feeling of being handy and asked in surprise. That is the exit of the demon beast space that I refined in the core of the demon continent and the core of the trial land in the mortal world. Yang Chun was not afraid to shock the world in front of the women and directly said the answer. Chapter 2035. The women didn't know this before. Suddenly hearing Yang Chun say this, they were all surprised and couldn't close their mouths. Almost everyone had been to the demon continent. Even if they hadn't been there, they had heard of it. In a later period, there was no more demonic energy in the demon continent, which everyone knew. They thought that there was something wrong with the demon continent, but they didn't expect that their husband had collected the core of the demon continent. What was the exit of the demonic beast space? For a while, everyone didn't think more. But soon everyone realized something, and they covered their mouths in shock and looked at their husband incredulously. The last time we entered the trial ground, Big Brother Li Chung took me inside to have a look. Yang Chun explained lightly, putting Li Cheng's credit at the forefront, and this was the case. There is a huge space exit inside, which is the source of the demonic beasts in the trial ground, and also the source of the demonic beasts in the demonic tribulation. Yang Chun quickly explained to the women, I saw it, so I refined that space exit. Then why did my husband let the demonic tribulation happen? Gao Yu asked in confusion. In fact, everyone wanted to ask this question, and it was obvious that there was some reproach in it. Only Gao Yu could ask it. No one else could. It was fine if Zhou Xianying asked, but Zhou Xianying was Grandma Tianqin. In front of Yang Chun, she was a good wife, but in front of outsiders, she was still the unreasonable Grandma Tianqin. What's wrong with the demonic tribulation? It should take a little longer to eliminate more than half of the cultivators in the world. My cultivation base is too low. I can't close that exit. Yang Chun made everyone accept this fact with just one sentence. In order to refine that space exit, I had to forcibly improve my cultivation base. In a later stage, I couldn't control it, so I abolished my cultivation base and started over again. Everyone knew the latter. They thought that Big Brother Li Chung really just made Yang Chen's cultivation more twists and turns, but they didn't expect it to be this reason. When they thought that everyone would misunderstand their husband, the women had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Husband, how did you get in? Sun Qingxue, this little girl, was the youngest. She was always curious like a baby and asked some questions that everyone wanted to know, and no one blamed her. The goal she was talking about was naturally the invisible barrier in the core region of the trial grounds that blocked the various sect members outside. Zhao family manor. Yang Chun explained with a smile. The Zhao family's manor in the mortal world will not be blocked, nor will it be attacked. It was refined by the Zhao family, and they are of the same lineage. Junkie even lived in it for a very long time. Now, everyone understood. After the initial shock, the girls started to look forward to the scene inside the core of the trial ground. Although their husband said it casually, there were so many Xian immortal demonic beasts outside. One could imagine the situation inside. Let's recuperate for a while, collect a few cave manners, and consolidate our foundations. Then, let's go in and take a look. Yang Chun could guess their thoughts from the way he valued the girls. After giving the girls a guarantee, everyone began to discuss the itinerary after going out. After a retreat of 300 years, everyone had gained a lot. After the girls got the guidance of their husband and knew that they did not miss the evolution of the Great Way, they also needed to retreat a little to understand their gains. The most idle people became Yang Chun and Big Brotherly Chung. It was rare that in the past 300 years, Yang Lan did not give Yang Chun a single instruction. However, Yang Chun quickly understood that it was not that Yang Lan did not want to give him instructions, but that his instructions were issued. It was just that the great unfettered Demon Heart Sutra had not been cultivated to the realm of the spiritual sense cultivation method. Naturally, he did not have the ability to cross realms, and he did not even have the ability to break through several layers of cave manners. Yang Chun was now in the cave in the belly of the Earth Dragon. Then he entered the Dragon Palace, and finally entered the Mountain River geographical map, a total of 3 layers, completely shortening the connection between Yang Lan and himself. However, Yang Chun found that he was still able to communicate with Yang Lan, and he felt more relaxed than at the beginning. It seemed that this was the result of the great improvement of his spiritual sense cultivation. From this, it was estimated that Yang Lan's influence could affect up to 2 layers of the cave space. It was estimated that he also got the news of Yang Chen's retreat and knew that the news could not be sent in, so he gave up and waited for the next opportunity. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness cultivation base had improved so much that there was no pure spiritual awareness overflowing from the white bead in his sea of consciousness. It was estimated that the spiritual awareness of the great principal golden immortal had been refined. This made Yang Chun feel a little unsatisfied, and he wished that there was another great principal golden immortal's spiritual awareness to supplement it. Fortunately, Yang Chun also understood that this idea was too greedy, but he shook his head and gave up after thinking about it. Cultivation was not a hard work, so Yang Chun did not immediately seize the time to cultivate crazily. Instead, together with Big Brotherly Chung, they strolled leisurely in the Mountain River geographical map and went to the life circle of the natives of the mortal world to appreciate the life of the mortals. It was not until the girls came out that they returned to the side of the girls. The girls had been in seclusion for 10 years. The outside world was calm, and it was estimated that there was nothing major. During these 10 years, Ao Lan and Ao Lai also came out of seclusion one after another. However, looking at their appearance, it seemed that they were not very satisfied with the effect of seclusion. Thinking about it, it was normal. The evolution of the Great Tao was not that easy to comprehend. Even if Ao Lan was a golden immortal dragon expert, it was impossible for him to comprehend it in such a short time. However, even so, the 2 dragon experts had their own breakthroughs. Ao Lan, who was a peak golden immortal, finally broke through this barrier and entered the great principal golden immortal realm in the spiritual world. Unfortunately, there could not be profound immortal tribulation and golden immortal tribulation in the spiritual world. Otherwise, Ao Lan could really become a great principal golden immortal. Ao Lai was no exception. He was already a peak heaven immortal. These years, he was limited by the lack of mental state and did not improve. In fact, he had accumulated enough. Using this opportunity, he broke through the bottleneck of peak heaven immortal in one fell swoop and directly rushed to the profound immortal grade 4. The advantage of the dragon race was really unique. If ordinary humans and demons wanted to surpass the heaven immortal realm and stay in the spiritual world, they had to do a lot of preparatory work. Only then would they be able to deceive heaven's secrets and prevent the heavenly tribulation from descending. However, the dragon race did not need to go through so much trouble. If they did not want to ascend, the heavenly tribulation would not descend. This was something that Yang Chun already knew very clearly from his comprehension of the heavenly Tao. However, in Yang Chen's opinion, the biggest gain for the 2 was not the increase in their cultivation. Although the increase in their cultivation was something to be happy about, it was just something that happened naturally when the time was right for the dragon race. What truly allowed them to be reborn was the result of their arduous training during this period. The two of them no longer had to worry about the restraint of the dragon coiling grass. Chapter 2036. For the past 300-odd years, the dragon coiling grass had never left Aolon and Aolai's bodies. They had always been used to fighting and tempering themselves. Hard work paid off when the dragon race, who were blessed by the heavens, put in a lot of effort to temper themselves. The heavens would naturally give them a corresponding reward. When Aolai came out of closed-door cultivation, he stretched his huge dragon body. The jasper dragon coiling demonic vine that had entangled him for 300-odd years was broken by his huge strength. It broke into pieces of vines that were no more than 3 meters long. That is little Snow's darling. Can't you be gentler? Before Aolai could show off, he heard Yang Chen's reprimand. As soon as he heard Yang Chen say this, Aolai immediately restrained his arrogant appearance, and his dragon face began to accompany him with a smile. Aolon and Aolai came out of closed-door cultivation right after each other. However, Aolan's movements were very small. The dragon's body moved slightly, and the vines wrapped around her body seemed to have no effect at all. They quickly coiled up and flung to the side. Aolai probably heard Yang Chen reprimanding Aolai. Hence, she did not damage the vines. Yang Chen immediately put away the rattan. Even the ones that Aolai broke were no exception. These were all good things, especially the jasper dragon coiling demonic vine that had been nourished by Aolon and Aolai's flesh for 300 years. It was the best gift for little Snow. I suddenly feel much more relaxed. Aolon sighed as she felt her free body. That is true. In the future, there will no longer be any natural enemies that can restrain the two of you. That is what I should congratulate you for. Yang Chen continued with a smile. Now that my thoughts are clear, naturally, I feel more relaxed. With Aolon around, Aolai did not dare to say anything. He could not tell that this fellow had such potential. In the future, he would definitely be a henpecked husband. It is indeed that kind of unrestrained freedom. Aolon took a deep breath of the air filled with spiritual energy. Then she sighed. Unexpectedly, it is so easy. Indeed, it is that easy. Yang Chen smiled and said, actually, it is just like how mortals train in body tempering techniques. After getting used to a certain degree of impact, they will slowly get used to it. In the end, they will no longer fear an even heavier impact. It is such a simple principle. To think that your ancestors restrained their descendants to be restrained by the dragon coiling grass generation after generation. You are truly far-sighted. The latter part of Yang Chen's words contained clear mockery. This was the fault of the dragon race's ancestors. As a member of the dragon race, Aolon naturally could not interfere too much. However, she did not want to hear such words, either. She could only laugh it off and let the topic pass. Big elder sister, coiling grass, dragon coiling dragons. The reason why Yang Chen said all that was because he wanted to bring up the topic at the back. How could Aolon not say anything else? He immediately followed up by saying, if you still have friends, let them come here and try to hone themselves. It will be good for them. That was an expert of the dragon race who was on good terms with Aolon, a golden immortal. How could Yang Chen let go of such an opportunity? There is no need. Aolon immediately saw through Yang Chen's thoughts. However, she did not give him a chance. Although we have nearly exterminated the dragon coiling grass, we can still find a small amount. However, the jasper dragon coiling around the demonic blood-devouring vine is the only one in the world. At this moment, Yang Chen smiled like an old fox who had succeeded in his scheme. Not only the dragon coiling grass, but you can also get used to the might of the demonic blood-devouring vine and the demonic blood-devouring vine. Furthermore, there is the nourishment of the jasper vine. It is much more beneficial than just the dragon coiling grass. It had to be said that Yang Chen always grasped the most tempting part of people and succeeded every time. Aolon and Aolai had both tasted the jasper dragon coiling around the demonic blood-devouring vine. Naturally, They knew what benefits they had obtained in the past 300 years. After hesitating for a while, Lan said somewhat unnaturally, "I am only in charge of mentioning it to them. Whether they come or not is up to them." Lan's words were like announcing that Yang Chen's scheme had succeeded. When Lan's dragon race companions saw the great changes in Lan and Lai, it would be strange if they were not willing to come over. Lan probably would not even dream that she would be the spokesperson for Yang Chen's advertisement. The power of a role model was boundless. Seeing Yang Chen chatting casually with them, how could Lan and Lai not know that Yang Chen had already started comprehending the heavenly Tao? However, what made them feel strange was that in a mere 300 years, not much time had passed, the Mountain River geographical map clearly had the aura of the dragon race. Lan was too embarrassed to ask. The Mountain River geographical map was a magic treasure of the dragon race in the first place. It was normal for it to have dragon chi. However, Lai did not have such concerns. He immediately asked, "Yang Chen, why is the dragon chi here becoming denser?" The original 3 item spirits of the Mountain River geographical map have all been drawn out. Yang Chen did not say much. There were some things that everyone could understand with just a little. There was no need to waste words. Lan's eyes lit up when she heard that. No matter what, the Mountain River geographical map was a magic treasure of the dragon race. Looking at the situation now, it seemed to be getting closer to a world. This was also the long-cherished wish of the dragon race's seniors. If Yang Chen and Gong Sunling could realize it, it would be a huge boost and reference for the dragon race. The 2 dragon race experts did not linger for long. This time, they had gained too much. They had to consolidate their gains. Furthermore, Yang Chen's suggestion moved them as well. They might even have to bring a group of friends over and make use of Sun Qingshue's Jasper Dragon entangling demonic vines to break free from the restraints of the dragon entangling grass. Soon, only Yang Chen's family and big brother Li Cheng remained in the Mountain River geographical map. The girls were still in closed-door cultivation. However, after Lan and Lai left, big brother Li Cheng also mentioned leaving. "Just go and collect the cave abode. Don't worry about anything else." Li Cheng warned Yang Chen. The experts of the Zhao clan are still at the exit of the demonic beast space. It will take hundreds of years for them to be held back by the experts. What are your plans? Give the Zhao clan's manor to the Xiantian sect. Yang Chen thought for a while and replied directly. He did not hide his disgust for the Xiantian sect from big brother Li Cheng. He believed that big brother Li Cheng would not have a good impression of him. "I will take you and the others to collect the cave abode. When the time is right, refine the heavenly tribulation room." "Well, that's good too." Li Cheng did not respond to Yang Chen's plan for the Xiantian sect. He said, "Don't rush to refine the heavenly tribulation room. If you have time, expand the core of the demon continent to allow us to enter and exit. When I come and find you next time, we will go to the other side of the demon continent to have a look." When Yang Chen heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. On the other side of the core of the demon continent, it was obviously a huge world or space. If he went there would definitely be great benefits. Originally, he just said it, but Yang Chen was a little impatient now. Chapter 2037. Li Cheng soon left on his own. Yang Chen would not ask him what he was going to do, and Li Cheng almost never told him. However, Yang Chen could probably guess the purpose of Li Cheng. It was estimated that he was preparing to refine the Heaven's Tribulation Room in the geographical map of mountains and rivers. Although he said it lightly before, Yang Chen could feel the importance he attached to the Heaven's Tribulation Room. Yang Chen waited for a few more years in the geographical map of mountains and rivers, and finally waited for the girls to come out one by one. In this retreat, the women really had their own gains. Although their cultivation base did not advance rapidly, Yang Chen could easily see the changes in the mentality of the outstanding women. Perhaps Yang Chen's last reminder had an effect. The girls were now more and more infatuated with Yang Chen. One by one, they were entangled with each other, wishing they could never be separated, which made Yang Chen enjoy it. Everyone left the geographical map of mountains and rivers separately. There was no other way. Several of them were on the verge of crossing their tribulations. Once they went out, they would cross their tribulations. Moreover, the tribulations of each of them were much stronger than ordinary tribulations. Going out together would affect each other. The mountain gate of Chunyang Palace was very lively these days. Every day, there were masters crossing their tribulations, and they were very powerful tribulations that were dozens of times stronger than ordinary tribulations. Every time they crossed their tribulations, it was an earth-shattering movement, which surprised and delighted the disciples of Chunyang Palace who were lucky enough to watch the ceremony. They were happy that after watching so many human immortal tribulations, they all had some experience in crossing tribulations. They were surprised that each human immortal tribulation was unusually strong, so that the masters of these human immortal disciples had to comfort them. This was not normal, but a group of abnormal masters. Among Yang Qin's wives and concubines, only Shi Wushuang and the Murong sisters were in the intermediate human immortal tribulation, but there were 24 Penglai divine wood demons in the Dragon Palace who had long reached the level of Earth Immortal. Despite the 12 Yuanshan Sea Suppression Formation, if 24 Penglai divine wood demons whose cultivation was far beyond the level of Earth Immortal had to cross their tribulations at the same time, it was estimated that the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace would be destroyed again, so they could only take turns to cross their tribulations. The Murong sisters had been controlling the dragon puppet to refine their life source magic weapon, the 5 elements hook, over the years, and their cultivation fell behind. But as the 5 elements hook became more and more integrated, their cultivation also rose. The Dragon Clan's magic weapon was by no means so ordinary. In addition, the dragon puppet had also been pestering the dragon coiling grass over the years. Every time, the Murong sisters controlled the dragon puppet to resist the entanglement of the Jasper dragon and the blood-eating demon vine. After more than 300 years, it had been quite effective. At least when entangled with the dragon grass, the Murong sisters did not seem to be interfered. The Murong sisters, the dragon puppet, and the dragon puppet. The same. The dragon puppet to the dragon puppet. Shi Wushuang has been favored by the Penglai divine wood monsters these years. Her life source flying sword was a Penglai divine wood that Yang Chun gave her later. After refining the life source flying sword, it was unexpected that this Penglai divine wood flying sword and the 24 Penglai divine wood monsters were inexplicably linked. This also led to Shi Wushuang having a jaw-dropping benefit. That was, her life could be shared with the 24 Penglai divine wood demons. The vitality of the Penglai divine wood demons was too strong, not to mention the 24 united. In other words, as long as Shi Wushuang was not completely killed at once, as long as there was a breath, then she almost had an immortal body and could recover at any time and anywhere. There were 30 Penglai divine wood demons, Shi Wushuang, and the Murong sisters. On average, the human immortal tribulation lasted for 1 day and night. For a whole month, the tribulation cloud above Chunyang Palace did not dissipate. It was almost always there, and the rumbling sound lasted for a month. Just when the human immortal tribulation cloud in the sky finally dissipated completely, and everyone thought that the feast of the heaven tribulation was finally over, the clear sky was once again covered with tribulation clouds. This time, the human immortal disciples in Chunyang Palace all changed their faces. The masters in the palace immediately issued a warning. All the people with insufficient cultivation retreated thousands of miles. More Earth immortal masters were full of stars and hurriedly grabbed the best position for fear of missing the next wonder. There was no other way. This time the tribulation cloud was the Earth immortal tribulation, and someone was going to become a fairy immortal. How many people were stuck in this hurdle all their lives and could not pass it anyway? Now that there was a free reference opportunity, who would easily let it go? Lady Fanghua and the 30 beautiful maids, in the past 300 years, had the most terrifying improvement in their cultivation, and each of them had reached the standard of a fairy immortal. Especially after the double cultivation with Yang Chen's improved golden body secrets, their cultivation was a little bit uncontrollable. One by one, they went out, and the result was one after another crossing the tribulation. The earth immortal tribulation in the sky was also several times more terrible than the ordinary earth immortal tribulation, and there was a dense pile of it. Every time a beautiful figure appeared, it would trigger a series of earth immortal tribulation attacks. Then, under the gaze of countless people, each beautiful figure easily and elegantly resolved one by one. From a distance, everyone could not see clearly who it was, and they did not dare to use their divine senses to explore, lest they were affected by the heaven tribulation. But everyone could think that it was an expert of Chunyang Palace who was crossing the tribulation. Such a scene of crossing the tribulation was common in Chunyang Palace with hundreds of thousands of people. But such a continuous heaven tribulation was rare, and it was really an eye-opener. People thought it was normal that the human immortal tribulation was continuous, but even the earth immortal tribulation was like this, which made people's imagination run wild. When Lady Fanghua finally appeared, the power of the heaven tribulation reached its peak. It was several times more powerful than the previous women combined. However, Lady Fanghua, who had been showered with the most by Yang Chun, just chuckled, swayed her body, and took the initiative to rush into the group of heaven tribulation. The chuckle just now was full of the charm of a beautiful woman missing her lover. The sound was not loud, but it spread thousands of miles. Just this sound alone made many male cultivators almost unable to control themselves. Although the female cultivators were a little better, their hearts were also rippling, and their faces were blushing. The heaven tribulation all over the sky seemed to have become Lady Fanghua's gorgeous dress, with thousands of rays of light, decorating Lady Fanghua extraordinarily beautiful. In this excessive beauty, Lady Fanghua's laughter continued, but the number of heaven tribulation was decreasing rapidly. Even so, Madame Fanghua's heavenly tribulation lasted for 5 days, so that some masters who have already become celestial immortals were dumbfounded. Finally, Lady Fanghua's heaven tribulation was over. The smoke in the sky dissipated, and the sky was clear. For more than 2 months, everyone had not seen the blue sky, and it had always been shrouded in tribulation clouds. Today, they finally saw the sun, and the shadow in the hearts of countless people was swept away. Just when everyone breathed a sigh of relief and planned to enjoy the sunny sun and relax their mood, the tribulation clouds began to condense again. Chapter 2038. Again, everyone in Chunyang Palace had begun to smile bitterly. What kind of day was this? Even the tribulation transcendence was lined up so neatly. However, it was a good thing for everyone to watch the heavenly tribulation. No one would complain about watching too many heavenly tribulations. They were all experiences and references. Even if they failed, they could learn from them. Normally, they might not even be able to watch it. This time, everyone was lucky. They bumped into a large group. However, the heavenly tribulation this time was truly a little strange. No one could understand what was going on. The tribulation clouds had already covered the entire sky, but the dense heavenly tribulation did not appear. Not only that, even in normal 99 heavenly tribulations did not appear. There were only tribulation clouds, but no heavenly tribulations. What was going on? No one had ever seen such a wondrous sight before. Even a good number of heavenly immortals were looking up at the sky in puzzlement. They could not figure out what was going on. After a long time, a heavenly tribulation finally appeared. The moment it appeared, countless cultivators watching the ceremony frowned. What was going on? Why was there only one heavenly tribulation? What kind of bribe was this? How could there be such a good thing? But in the next moment, no one thought that this was a good thing anymore. The heavenly tribulation finally revealed itself. It appeared unassuming, but the aura it exuded was like a tempestuous tsunami, causing all the cultivators within a radius of tens of thousands of li to involuntarily fall limply to the ground. What kind of berserk was that? Even the few Xian immortal experts in Chunyang Palace were trembling with fear from the aura contained in the heavenly tribulation. They couldn't help but feel invincible. Even if it was a profound immortal tribulation, these few profound immortal experts were confident that they could withstand 1 or 2 bolts. They didn't dare say that they could withstand all 999 bolts, but 1 or 2 bolts wouldn't matter. However, They didn't even dare to think of resisting the heavenly tribulation that had appeared in the sky. What level of heavenly tribulation was this? The mysterious immortal tribulation was not enough to describe it. Could it be the legendary golden immortal tribulation that only appeared in the immortal world? But why would the golden immortal tribulation appear here? The ordinary natives within a radius of tens of thousands of li had all fainted under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation. Even many cultivators below the fifth-tier human immortal stage were unable to endure the pressure and lost consciousness. The remaining people could only bitterly hold on. They all wanted to see who had triggered such a heaven-defying heavenly tribulation. If they couldn't see it, they would simply die with everlasting regret. Not long after this heavenly tribulation appeared, 9 different heavenly tribulations appeared around it. In the eyes of those Xian immortal experts, these 9 heavenly tribulations were slightly more normal. If they guessed correctly, these 9 heavenly tribulations should be Xian immortal tribulations. However, it was impossible for a profound immortal tribulation to appear in the spiritual realm. The profound immortal tribulation would only appear when a profound immortal broke through to the golden immortal realm. How could there be any profound immortals in the spiritual realm who could undergo tribulation? Those who passed the tribulation would have ascended to the immortal world long ago. The 9 abstruse immortal tribulations were much inferior to the previous golden immortal tribulation, but that was only in comparison. In the eyes of the cultivators who had barely fainted, these 9 heavenly tribulations were like 9 deadly impermanences. No matter who encountered them, there was only death. Perhaps it felt that everyone was not shocked enough. Outside the 9 abstruse immortal tribulations, another 99 heavenly immortal tribulations appeared. The heavenly immortal tribulations were much more normal, at least within the acceptable range of the cultivators in the spiritual realm. However, 99 heavenly immortal tribulations were clearly the heavenly tribulation of a heaven immortal expert who was about to undergo tribulation and ascend. Could it be that a senior in the sect was about to ascend? The surprises came one after another, one after the other. After the 99 heavenly immortal tribulations appeared, it was immediately followed by 999 earthly immortal tribulations. The earthly immortal tribulations appeared because an earthly immortal expert was about to become a heaven immortal. No one knew what kind of pitiful earthly immortal expert had done to trigger 999 earthly immortal tribulations. This was already 10 times stronger than an ordinary earthly immortal tribulation. If the heavenly immortal tribulations of the golden immortal and abstruse immortal tribulations were taken into account, the power of these earthly immortal tribulations would be unimaginable. If everyone thought that the earthly immortal tribulations were everything, then the subsequent human immortal tribulations that exceeded 9,999,999 made them speechless. No matter how powerful a human immortal expert was, it was impossible for there to be so many human immortal tribulations. Even the human immortal tribulations that had descended continuously for a month were not this many in total. Since there were human immortal tribulations, it meant that a human immortal was about to undergo tribulation. Poor guy, he was about to be crushed into ashes by the heavens. How could this be called tribulation? He might as well take out his flying sword and slit his own throat. That might be more satisfying. Several different types of heavenly tribulations formed a circle, getting stronger and stronger from the inside out. Perhaps it was because the appearance of these heavenly tribulations was too shocking that no one realized that by the time all the heavenly tribulations had appeared, 2 months had already passed. That was to say, it took 2 months for the heavenly tribulations to appear. Up until now, the person who was about to undergo tribulation hadn't even started. Countless people had already begun to imagine how the person who was about to transcend the tribulation would have an ashen complexion and how brilliant the light would be during the tribulation. Then, the person who transcended the tribulation would turn to brilliant fireworks in front of everyone's eyes, blooming with the most brilliant light in his life. Then, he would turn into ashes, and there might even be no ashes left. It was not that they didn't care about their friendship, nor were they unsympathetic. It was just that the power of the heavenly tribulations was so terrifying that they had to think so. Didn't they see that the cultivators below the fifth stage of the human immortal realm couldn't even stay awake? The heavenly tribulations finally began to descend. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the most central position, wanting to know who this heaven-defying cultivator was. A figure rushed straight to the sky. Unfortunately, even the Xian immortal expert with the highest cultivation was hiding hundreds of miles away. He couldn't see who the figure was at all. As for what would happen to the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace after this heavenly tribulation, no one thought much about it. Anyway, the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace had been destroyed more than once or twice, so they were used to it. Fortunately, this time, it was not an enemy. There was nothing to say when it was destroyed under the heavenly tribulation. The person who faced the heavenly tribulation was naturally Yangchun. He didn't expect that his heavenly tribulation would cause such a big scene. Such an exaggerated heavenly tribulation was probably related to his cultivation of the sixth stage of three purity secret art and the initial understanding of the way of the heavens by the third primordial spirit. But in any case, he had to pass the heavenly tribulation. Looking at the dense heavenly tribulation above, Yangchun suddenly opened his mouth and sucked hard. All the heavenly tribulations seemed to have encountered the most powerful tornado. They were all swept up and sent straight into Yangchun's mouth. Chapter 2039. All the scenes of success, failure, paralysis, and death that the spectators were expecting did not appear. There were no cultivators resisting the heavenly tribulation, and there were no countless brilliant sparks flickering in the night sky. There was nothing at all. Yangchun inhaled like a whale, sucking in water. All the heavenly tribulations, be it the golden immortal tribulation, profound immortal tribulation, heaven immortal tribulation, earth immortal tribulation, or human immortal tribulation, were all swallowed in one gulp. Even the dense black tribulation clouds that covered tens of thousands of miles in the sky did not escape this big mouth. Nothing was left, and all of them were swallowed. In the blink of an eye, the whole sky disappeared, and the sky was clear for thousands of miles. The aura that could suppress everything not long ago disappeared in an instant, as if it had never appeared. Those aborigines and cultivators who had fainted from the suppression at the beginning also woke up in confusion and did not know what had happened. The cultivators who witnessed this scene looked at each other in dismay. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. That was it. The super heavenly tribulation that had been brewing for more than 2 months disappeared just like that before a single one fell on the person undergoing the tribulation. It was really the biggest joke in the world. Was there anything more unbelievable than this? Who was joking with everyone? But the tribulation clouds were not fake, and the heavenly tribulation that appeared was not fake either. Could it be that God saw that everyone was having a hard time, so he played with everyone? Countless people were discussing this strange heavenly tribulation with their companions. They could talk about it together, and they had all kinds of guesses. The contrast this time was so great that countless cultivators gave up on the thought of cultivating for a short period of time. Instead, they focused their attention on the heavenly tribulation. Some people even thought that some expert was really bored when cultivating, so he came up with this method to simulate the heavenly tribulation to tease everyone and achieve some breakthrough. The people outside were talking about it, but the women who hid in the dragon palace after the tribulation and watched the people behind them transcend the tribulation had a completely different thought. When Yangchun walked out, the tribulation clouds filled the sky, and the heavenly tribulations appeared one after another, and the hearts of the women directly rose to their throats. Her husband's cultivation was too heaven-defying, and even the cultivation of his spiritual sense was already unimaginable, which led to such a phenomenon. What everyone was worried about was whether their husband could withstand a heavenly tribulation of this degree. After being anxious and on tenterhooks for more than 2 months, the girls were finally able to persevere because they had experienced too many similar situations in the past 300 years. Otherwise, just this kind of silent torment alone would be enough to put them down. swallowing all the heavenly tribulations in one gulp. Even though the girls had thought of many ways to do so, they had never expected Xiang Xingjie to use such an unimaginable method. From the looks of it, her husband seemed to have succeeded. Yang Chen had used this method on a whim. He didn't expect it to work. The heavenly tribulation seemed to have a spirit. Without Yang Chen's explanation, it automatically divided into two parts. 1 golden immortal tribulation and 9 mysterious immortal tribulation rushed into Yang Chen's sea of consciousness without any surprise. They began to attack and destroy Yang Chen's sea of consciousness wantonly. The remaining fairy immortal tribulation, earth immortal tribulation, and human immortal tribulation filled Yang Chen's body, waiting for all the power to burst out at once. Yang Chen had already called out the golden bell in advance. In an instant, all the energy was charged into Yang Chen's body and the golden bell. After the improved golden body secret art, his body was strengthened again. It was almost comparable to the strength of the yellow, turbaned strongman's body, refining arcane power in the Heaven Tower realm. The heavenly tribulation of the spiritual world was just like tickling. In fact, Yang Chen's body had only withstood tens of thousands of human immortal tribulations. It was enough to achieve the purpose of tempering himself, and he didn't expect more. After a part of the great yin yang 5 elements flying sword was consumed, more than 99% of the power of the heavenly tribulation was guided into the golden bell by Yang Chen. This magic weapon of the dragon clan required a lot of power of the heavenly tribulation to refine and integrate. This time, the super heavenly tribulation was also stronger than Yang Chen expected. It was just right to use it to refine the golden bell. According to the number of heavenly tribulations, this time super heavenly tribulation was enough to match tens of thousands of normal human immortal tribulations, at least 10 earth immortal tribulations, and 1 fairy immortal tribulation. This did not include the golden immortal tribulation and Xian immortal tribulation that raged in the sea of consciousness. The power of the heavenly tribulation beyond imagination was all absorbed by the golden bell. The energy that poured in at one time was so amazing that the 8 dragon spirits were busy like crazy, absorbing imbalance. In a short time, the 8 dragon shadows became much more solid. The fusion with Yang Chen's soft voice also entered another stage. Originally, elder brother Li Cheng judged that Yang Chen could not completely integrate the golden bell in 1 or 2 heavenly tribulations. That was because he did not expect that Yang Chen's heavenly tribulation would be so terrifying. The golden bell couldn't bear more power for a while and had to rely on Yang Chen's body, which had been integrated by 1/3, to bear it. Then there was often more fusion. At the beginning of this process, unless the energy was exhausted, it would not stop. Yang Chen closed his eyes and silently felt the fusion of the golden bell and his body. In the eyes of the women outside, Yang Chen's body was surrounded by 8 golden dragons. His body turned red for a while, and then slowly began to become normal. The process was very complicated and seemed to take a long time, but in the eyes of the women, it was just a few breaths. Everyone watched Yang Chen swallow the heavenly tribulation, then stood in the same place, and his whole body turned red. After taking a few deep breaths, the red color of his body began to fade slowly, and the dragon shadows flying around him became more and more detailed, like a real dragon. In a moment, Yang Chen's body completely returned to normal. The golden dragon shadow also turned into 8 dragon-shaped tattoos again and returned to Yang Chen's body, making Yang Chen's well-proportioned body look extremely hideous. It's over? The women were also surprised. Such a terrifying heavenly tribulation, but her husband actually resolved it in a few breaths? However, Yang Chen had done many shocking things, and it seemed that he didn't need this one more. The women were used to it, but they quickly accepted it without any doubt. Everyone thought that everything was over, but only Yang Chen knew that the 10 heavenly tribulations in his sea of consciousness, 1 golden immortal tribulation, and 9 profound immortal tribulations were still raging wildly, and there was no sign of it ending. Even with Yang Chen's current spiritual sense cultivation of the 9th grade golden immortal, he couldn't completely resist a golden immortal tribulation. That was the heavenly tribulation that a peak golden immortal expert had to go through to become a zenith heaven golden immortal. Even if Yang Chen's spiritual sense cultivation had not reached that realm, it was extremely difficult for him to deal with it. The 9 profound immortal tribulations were fine, and it would not cause much harm in the sea of consciousness. The incomparably strong Lingxiao Palace in the sea of consciousness forcibly took all the profound immortal tribulations. After a while, the 9 profound immortal tribulations turned into the purest spiritual sense power and began to nourish Yang Chen's damaged sea of consciousness. Chapter 2040. What really damaged Yang Chen's sea of consciousness was a golden immortal tribulation. If it weren't for the fact that Yang Chen had personally crossed the normal golden immortal tribulation in his previous life and became a great principal golden immortal, he had some experience and could barely cope with it. Otherwise, his sea of consciousness would not have been able to support and turned into chaos. If it was just Yang Chen's sea of consciousness, Yang Chen could rely on the sturdiness of the soaring Heaven King Palace to support it. Although the golden immortal tribulation was powerful, it was not enough to completely destroy the soaring Heaven King Palace. Each time, he could only attack a corner of the soaring Heaven King Palace, and then Yang Chen quickly used his spiritual awareness to repair it. That is, now that Yang Chen's 3 purity secret art has reached the 6th realm, so he could use his spiritual awareness to repair such damage at any time and anywhere, barely reaching a balance between repair and destruction, so that the sea of consciousness would not collapse. Even in the previous realm, the repair was not so fast, and the consequence was that the sea of consciousness would eventually be destroyed. Even if the repair and destruction could reach a balance now, it was still very hard for Yang Chen to persist in the sea of consciousness. The biggest flaw was actually the virtual sea of consciousness built for Yang Lan. Yang Chen didn't want to easily cut off the connection with Yang Lan. He still wanted to use this line in the future, so he must protect this virtual sea of consciousness. There was never a day when Yang Chen would think that he had to spare no effort to save Yang Lan's life. According to the destructive power of the golden immortal tribulation, as long as the virtual sea of consciousness was destroyed, then Yang Lan's sea of consciousness would be blasted into slag, like the great principal golden immortal master who chased after the body along the spiritual awareness connection. In order to keep this sea of consciousness, Yang Chen could only do his best to move the virtual sea of consciousness to the center of the soaring Heaven King Palace, and let the soaring Heaven King Palace protect it, so that the virtual sea of consciousness would not be lost. If Yang Lan knew that the spiritual awareness seed he separated to control Yang Chen was lucky enough to live in the soaring Heaven King Palace, he didn't know what kind of honor it would be. Fortunately, Yang Chen finally found that the white bead in the middle of the roof of the soaring Heaven King Palace could slightly absorb the power of the golden immortal tribulation every time he touched it, weakening the power of the golden immortal tribulation. As long as he could persist through the most difficult period, he would eventually be able to suppress this golden immortal tribulation. He just didn't know if the white bead would give him the purest divine sense after absorbing the golden immortal tribulation, just like how it absorbed the divine sense of the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Anyway, he had already planned to give the Zhao family manor to the profound Heaven sect. Yang Chen would not let go of this good opportunity to let Yang Lan know about it. The idea was very simple. Just the words, Zhao Manor of the mortal world, Zhao Manor Manor. Yang Chen would Yang had Yang. Yang Yin would not want Yin Qi. The idea was very simple. It was the words mortal Zhao family manor. He believed that the smart Yang Lan would be able to think of many things from these words. Yang Lan was really fooled. When he received Yang Chen's words of control, his mind immediately flashed the legend of a Zhao family manor built on the back of the black tortoise. This thing should be able to help outsiders enter the invisible barrier. The Zhao manor had fallen into the hands of Yang Chen. This was a fact that many people knew. Yang Lan quickly waited for a while. Regardless of whether it was successful or not, he immediately sent a controlling idea to Yang Chen, asking him to hand over the Zhao manor to the Xintian sect. When it came to Yang Lan's most hated enemy, Yang Chen must be ranked second, and the first must be the Xintian sect. If it wasn't for the Xintian sect, he wouldn't have suffered so much, and his sister wouldn't have died in the Xintian sect. If he were to take revenge in his lifetime, he would definitely destroy the Xintian sect. If the Xintian sect got the Zhao Manor, they could enter the invisible barrier. At that time, the Xintian sect would be the enemy that the Zhao family had to eradicate. Using the power of the Zhao family to destroy the Xintian sect was Yang Lan's plan, and the Zhao Manor was the bait to provoke a fight between the two sides as soon as possible. This thing was given to the Xintian sect by Yang Chun, so naturally, Yang Chun had a share. When the Zhao family retaliated, Yang Chun wouldn't be able to escape. It was killing two birds with one stone. What Yang Lan didn't expect was that when he gave Yang Chun a controlling idea, the divine sense of the Dragon Clan master trembled slightly. Obviously, the other side also knew about it. However, he didn't know what the other side was thinking. There was no follow-up reaction at all. It seemed that they had acquiesced to Yang Lan doing this. They could stop it, but they didn't stop it. This was worth pondering. Yang Chun didn't delve too deeply into the divine sense of the Dragon Clan master. He quietly lay dormant again, waiting for the next opportunity. "Husband, are you okay?" Zhou Xianying saw that something was wrong with Yang Chun and asked worriedly. The other women were also shocked. It seemed that if Yang Chun didn't explain it to everyone quickly, maybe everyone would pounce on him. The strongest golden immortal tribulation is still a little troublesome. I can't refine it for a while. Yang Chun told the truth. It is estimated that in a short period of time, we can only maintain the current situation. We can't use force easily. This time, the heavenly tribulation was absolutely unexpected to everyone, even Yang Chun. Fortunately, Yang Chun didn't need to use his divine sense for a short time. As long as he was with everyone, he didn't have to worry about safety. While the women were a little relieved, they also began to think about where their husband was going to take them. Yang Chun didn't explain and just let them follow. The Zhao family manor had been given to the Earth Dragon by Yang Chun and was refined into the most basic Chunyang Palace refuge manor. If he wanted to use it now, he had to come back and refine it again to remove the aura of the Earth Dragon. However, this was not difficult for Yang Chun. The Zhao family manor was successfully taken out from the mouth of the Earth Dragon. After a few fiddling with Shao Tian, it became a magic weapon with a pure aura. Yang Chun didn't decorate it much. He took the Zhao family manor that had been repaired by the Earth Dragon and went straight to the profound heaven sect. This time, it was still a secret operation. The women were all in the Dragon Palace, and they didn't care where they were outside. Yang Chun was still alone. He secretly met Sect Master Li and the 36 Heavenly Dipper Masters near the profound heaven sect. The Heavenly Dipper Masters all owed Yang Chun a favor. After meeting, they were very affectionate, talking and laughing, and they didn't treat him as an outsider at all. "What's the matter this time?" When Sect Master Li met, he immediately went straight to the point. Their secret meeting time couldn't be too long, so he could only make a long story short. In addition, what happened to the tribulation in the Chunyang Palace a few days ago? This disciple suddenly remembered that this disciple still has a Zhao family manor in his hand, which was obtained from the Zhao family in the mortal world. Yang Chun directly took the Zhao family manor that had become unrecognizable with both hands and gave it to Sect Master Li. This disciple secretly tried it. This disciple can enter the invisible barrier and it will not be blocked. Is there such a thing? Sect Master Li was like a treasure for a while. The Zhao family manor was made without the slightest aesthetic defect by the Earth Dragon. He only saw the most core part. Heaven is really helping me. Chapter 2041. For hundreds of years, the major sect had been at their wits' end about the invisible barrier, and they didn't even have the means to study it. If they used their divine sense to explore, it would be sucked dry in a few moments, so no one dared to use it easily. In a violent attack, the human immortal and earth immortal experts were useless at all. Hundreds of heaven immortal experts attacked with all their might, but the consequences were worse than using their divine sense to explore. After paying the lives of hundreds of disciples, the major sect basically didn't dare to touch the barrier easily. It had to be said that the ancestors of the Zhao family were really generous. No one knew what kind of energy they had spent to arrange a barrier that was tens of thousands of miles long. According to the estimates of the major sect, relying on the strength of their sect for thousands of years, they might not be able to arrange such a large array, and the protection was so abnormal. But in any case, the major sect was forcibly blocked outside the barrier, and they couldn't do anything to the Zhao family. They knew that the Zhao family must be recuperating and accumulating strength on the other side, but they couldn't do anything about it. The Zhao family manor that Yangshan took out at this time was definitely a shot in the arm for Sect Masterly. As long as they had this secret weapon, the Xintian sect would directly become the leader of the spiritual realm sect, not just within the scope of the Dao sect. Did you see what's inside? When Sect Masterly took it, he didn't forget to ask, "I'm ashamed, Master. I just took a peek and found a lot of monsters." Yangchen put on a very embarrassed look and said, "I didn't dare to go deep. As long as you have this thing, it will be a great contribution." Sect Masterly certainly understood. Even now, Yangchen was only in the Earth Immortal realm. It was unrealistic to let him enter the core area of countless Xian immortal experts. Yangchen dared to try it with a magic weapon, which meant that he had grown hair on his head. This disciple also had a sudden idea. Originally, this Zhao family manor was used to refine the core cave of the sect. Yangchen took the opportunity to explain and emphasize the importance of the Zhao family's manor to Chunyang Palace. "I didn't expect to get it by chance. I think it's the best way to use it, so I came here without stopping." Sect Masterly was very satisfied with Yangchen's attitude. Thinking that he might be useful to the mysterious heaven sect, he immediately tore down the core cave of his own sect. Was there any doubt about his loyalty to the mysterious heaven sect? Other people were loyal, but they didn't have such thoughts. Isn't the gate of Chunyang Palace destroyed again? Sect Masterly was also kind and couldn't help but ask with concern. Chunyang Palace could be considered a subsidiary sect of the mysterious heaven sect, so it was not too much to be concerned. "I'm used to it." Yangchen's rather helpless words sounded so funny in Sect Master Li's ears, and he couldn't help laughing. "Don't worry. When have you ever seen me mistreat you?" Sect Master Li patted Yangchen's shoulder and said, "When you leave, bring 2 top-quality cave houses back to make the gate." Yangchen hurriedly thanked him, but Sect Master Li didn't take it to heart. It was just 2 cave houses, which were nothing compared to Yangchen's anxious thoughts. Even if Yangchen didn't do anything, so what if he gave him 2 cave houses? By the way, what's going on with the strange heavenly tribulation in Chunyang Palace a few days ago? Sect Master Li solved a big problem in his heart, and he was in a good mood, so he began to pay attention to some other small things. Of course, the weird super heavenly tribulation was a small thing that could interest anyone. It's a friend of this disciple from the Dragon Clan. Yangchen didn't even think about it and began to lie. Originally, this disciple's wives, concubines, and maids took turns to cross the tribulation and retreat for 300 years. But that friend from the Dragon Clan also wanted to join the fun. So, needless to say, Sect Master Li also knew what Yangchen was going to say. It was nothing more than a strange heavenly tribulation caused by the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan had always been very mysterious in the mortal world and the spiritual world, and even there was no trace of the Dragon Clan in the mortal world. The spiritual world had only occasionally appeared in the spiritual world in the past 1,000 years, and most of them were related to Yangchen. They were so mysterious, and ordinary cultivators naturally knew even less about the Dragon Clan. Even with the power of the Xintian sect, their understanding of the Dragon Clan was limited to a very small range. It was already a big deal to know about the dragon in twining grass, and they really didn't know much more. No one knew what the situation was like when the masters of the Dragon Clan crossed the tribulation. But what everyone could be sure of was that one of Yangchen's dragon friends was a master of the golden immortal level. It was said that there were 9 mysterious immortal tribulations in the last tribulation. It must have something to do with that master of the golden immortal level. He was very interested in the Dragon Clan, so Sect Master Li asked more. How Yangchen built a friendship with the Dragon Clan, and how they dealt with each other later were all within the scope of his inquiry. Yang Chen didn't lie. He directly told him that shopkeeper Wang of the Blessing Gathering building had a seed of the dragon entwining grass in his hand. He established a relationship with the Dragon Clan because Yang Chen took the opportunity to heal the injured dragon. Yang Chen spoke very sincerely to Sect Master Li, and he didn't even hide the tracking method he secretly used on the dragon entwining grass. To put it bluntly, this matter was Yang Chen's betrayal. But Sect Master Li didn't comment on Yang Chen's approach. Not to mention that Yang Chen had successfully gained the friendship of the Dragon Clan, even if the operation failed. So what? The spiritual world had never been a peaceful place. If one wanted to live a well-behaved and honest life, he wouldn't have gotten to the point where Yang Chen was. I was wondering why the Blessing Gathering building would pack half of their property and give it to you. It turns out that there is such a reason. Sect Master Li smiled slightly and suddenly realized planting a dragon entwining grass in exchange for half of the Blessing Gathering building. This business is worth it. It's good that Master doesn't blame me, Yang Chen said with a simple and honest smile. This matter is a bit unethical. The Dragon Clan is not something that anyone can covet. You can resist the temptation and save that dragon. This is your opportunity. Sect Master Li was non-committal. In the future, try to maintain a good relationship with the Dragon Clan. There is no harm. Yes, Master. Yang Chen agreed respectfully, and then he seemed to think of something and asked Sect Master Li, Master, do you have any good cave abodes? Disciple's wife, Gong Sunling, needs to integrate some cave abodes to increase its power. If the sect has it, Disciple is willing to exchange it with elixirs. There's a group of fairy immortal disciples who specialize in refining cave abodes. Sect Master Li was not afraid to tell Yang Chen, how many do you need to refine one with a radius of 1,000 miles in 100 years? What elixirs are you going to exchange for it? Yang Chen was very surprised. This was the first time that Sect Master Li didn't just give him a reward, but asked him to exchange with elixirs. Was there any other intention in this? Or was there something hidden in this matter? Chapter 2042. Master, please tell me. Yang Chen had an advantage. If he didn't understand, he wouldn't pretend to understand. And if he didn't understand, he wouldn't pretend to understand. He couldn't understand this matter, so he immediately asked Sect Master Li for instructions. 100-year pills, 1,000-year pills, how many do you have? Surprisingly, Sect Master Li, as the sect master of the mysterious Heaven sect, actually asked about this kind of medicinal pill that could increase one's power. There are more than 2,100-year pills and less than 1,000-year pills, Yang Chen replied honestly. In fact, this number had far exceeded the number Yang Chen had plundered on the demon continent. However, Sect Master Li didn't seem surprised at all, as if he knew that Yang Chen would have a lot of such medicinal pills in his hands. And it's not a small amount. When Sect Master Li heard this number, he didn't sigh and just nodded slightly. If Master needs it, this disciple will immediately offer it with both hands. Yang Chen didn't say anything and immediately expressed his loyalty. However, this disciple still strongly recommends that even if the masters of the sect have to take it, Master, you should not take it unless it's a last resort. This was obviously concern. As the sect master of the mysterious Heaven sect, Sect Master Li had a high position and was cunning. Of course, he could hear the meaning of Yang Chen's words. These medicinal pills have other uses, Sect Master Li said with a smile, but he didn't seem to have any intention of explaining to Yang Chen. Instead, he asked Yang Chen a question. You are also in charge of a sect. Let me ask you, if the Chunyang Palace in the mortal world is also destroyed like the Taishaman, what should your Chunyang Palace in the spiritual world do? This was a big topic, especially since Yang Chen didn't understand whether Sect Master Li had discovered something or had other plans. He couldn't answer it easily. At least he couldn't make Sect Master Li suspicious. If it's a disciple, I'm afraid I can only annex another sect. Yang Chen smiled bitterly. He was a little hesitant, but he did not conceal it and replied, although it is somewhat immoral, it is better to swallow other sects than to lose the heirs of your own sect. I knew you weren't an old-fashioned Taoist disciple. Sect Masterly pointed at Yang Chun and praised him with a smile. As expected, you are my valued disciple. Fortunately, you didn't disgrace me. This was the naked support for Yang Chen's law of the jungle. Although Yang Chun knew that the major sects pursued this set of rules, no one dared to say so blatantly. In front of Yang Chun, it was estimated that Sect Master Li also trusted him. But this is far from enough. Sect Yang, Li Masters Lin's Teet Bi, Yant, after Chan Kama Ti, after Titi Wapi say Titi Ti, Yang, Titi Ti Dai Ti say, Chun Ti Yang Yang Ti, Yang Ti Ti say, TB, even if everyone was convinced, they might not be convinced in their hearts. Sect Masterly said that it would take several generations of disciples because the younger generation would slowly assimilate and accept after receiving such education from an early age. However, the first batch of people might not really be convinced. No matter how strong a master was, he couldn't change people's hearts. So even the sect master of the Xiantian sect couldn't solve this problem. It was just that Yang Chun still didn't understand what Sect Master Li's intention was. Annexing another sect is just a temporary measure. Sect Master Li was really giving advice to his disciple as a master. But it was not about cultivation, but about behavior. If you really want the Xiantian sect to continue, you have to let the Xiantian sect have its own ability to produce blood. Yang Chen closed his mouth and stared at Sect Master Li with bright eyes, greedily listening to the advice of this old fox. He wished he could immediately move all of Sect Master Li's thoughts into his own mind. This has to be divided into two aspects, a fundamental solution and a temporary solution. Sect Master Li looked at Yang Chen's serious attitude and said with a smile, a temporary solution can give the Xiantian sect a chance to breathe, and then we can deal with the fundamental problem. Master, please guide me. Yang Chen said this sincerely again. The Xiantian sect plan for the sect was simply information given to Yang Chun. Moreover, it was information that no matter how smart a spy was, they wouldn't be able to find out. What about this temporary measure of expediency? It's right now. Sect Masterly didn't say it directly, but he first asked. Last time, each of the 36 celestial dippers took 2 millennium pills. How long do you think it will take to eliminate the consequences? At least 500 years, Yang Chun said with certainty, suddenly relying on the millennium pill to increase their cultivation by 2,000 years. Unless it was someone like him who had been reborn and had a state of mind at the level of a perfected golden immortal, it would be impossible to completely control it. The reason he said 500 years was because they were all Xian immortal experts, and they were not young either. They had seen a lot and experienced a lot. Even if it was Yang Chun, it would take at least 100 or 200 years to recuperate. The tyrannical tiger-wolf medicine seemed very good at the time, but it also had many side effects on the body. Then, how are they now? As Sect Masterly said this, the 36 celestial dippers were smiling. Their duty had always been to protect the Sect Master, and they almost never left the Sect Master's cave. These people had all benefited greatly from Yang Chun during the Battle of the Three River Alliance. Each of them had a complete set of combination pills and a millennium pill. At that time, the situation was urgent, and they had taken 2 millennium pills. According to Yang Chen's estimation, it would take at least 500 years for them to recuperate. However, when Yang Chen looked at it now, no one appeared to be suffering from the backlash of the potency. Instead, all of them were calm and seemed to have made progress. It was really unbelievable. Yang Chen couldn't believe it, and he didn't care about being rude. He took the wrist of a celestial dipper master and began to check his pulse. Only Yang Chen, the celestial dipper master, laughed and let him do it. Their pulse was stable and normal, their cultivation was refined, and there were no hidden injuries in their bodies. How is this possible? Yang Chen didn't believe it. He checked the pulse of 6 masters in a row, and all of them were the same. Only then did he stop in disbelief. Master, please guide me. Yang Chen called out to Sect Master Li. These celestial dipper masters were equivalent to Sect Master Li's personal guards. They all knew about Yang Chen, so there was no need to avoid it. Although there are no longer any disciples ascending in the mortal world, our mysterious heaven sect can still increase a few disciples every year. Sect Master Li finally began to explain to Yang Chun. Although you're known to be well-read, there are some things that are not recorded in any book at all. It is normal for you not to know. After the cultivators of the spiritual world reach the heaven immortal level, their descendants will directly have the cultivation of the human immortal level. Sect Master Li said very seriously, unlike the aborigines who only have this realm but have not experienced the heavenly tribulation, they directly have the cultivation of the human immortal level after transcending the tribulation. Chapter 2043. This time, Yangchen was really a little stunned. He never thought that the mysterious heaven sect would have such a way to deal with the crisis in front of them. If a heaven immortal gave birth to a child, he would directly reach the level of a human immortal disciple. Then what about a Xian immortal? Yangchen had never heard of this method before. Cultivators rarely gave birth to children because most people were immersed in cultivation and few people liked to be burdened by their families. People in small sect rarely gave birth to children unless they felt that there was no hope for cultivation. Only then would they put their hopes on the next generation. However, could such a hopeless cultivator cultivate to the heaven immortal level? Forgive this disciple for being rude. Yangchen didn't fully understand the relationship between giving birth to children and eliminating hidden dangers for Heaven Star Border experts. This was a rare opportunity, so he had to ask clearly, what does this have to do with the health of the ancestors? Ha 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 ha. A group of people laughed and scrupulously. The laughter made Yangchen a little confused. Was there something on his body that made him look bad? After laughing, Sect Master Li pointed at Yangchen and wanted to say something, but he didn't say anything. He just said to the great elder next to him, Elderly, tell him. Kid. Elderly was not polite at all. He walked forward and patted Yangchen's shoulder. I heard that your wife and concubine have a unique skill. One of your wives is very good at brewing wine. Take out the wine your wife brewed and show your filial piety. This old man can't teach you for nothing, right? He called Yangchen's wife kid, but his words were affectionate. Obviously, he didn't treat Yangchen as an outsider. This kid is impolite. Yangchen hurriedly apologized and obediently took out a lot of wine and sent it. Sect Master Li personally poured it and handed it over with both hands, showing great respect. These Heaven Star Border experts didn't stand on ceremony even in front of the sect master. They all gulped down the wine and were very forthright. After Old Man Li drank a mouthful of wine, he laughed and belched in. The wine given by this junior's family is truly delicious. All the Heavenly Dipper elders nodded in agreement. We cultivators wholeheartedly pursue the immortal Tao. Old Man Li finally opened his mouth to explain to Yangchen. But once you give birth, your mind will be distracted and your vitality will be damaged, which is detrimental to your cultivation. Therefore, most cultivators will not choose to have children. Yangchen nodded in agreement. That was what most cultivators thought. Therefore, there might be cultivators in the mortal world who were willing to give birth, but after struggling to reach the spirit realm, very few would be willing to do such a thankless thing. The children of human immortals and earth immortals are the most strenuous and unrewarding in the spiritual realm. At most, they only have the strength of the mortal world's Mahayana stage. However, there is no heavenly tribulation, so they can only become natives. Elderly explained, in fact, many of the current natives are descendants of cultivators from many years ago. This was something Yangchen didn't know before, so he listened with great interest. When they reach the heaven immortal level, their children will have the strength of a human immortal. Elderly took a big gulp of wine as he spoke. To put it bluntly, the children will be 2 realms lower than their parents. However, the higher the parents' cultivation, the higher the children's cultivation will be. But, after explaining the basic situation, Elderly changed the topic. Giving birth will damage one's vitality, and so will the parents. According to my calculations, those with good qualifications will probably need more than 1,000 years, and those with poor qualifications will need to spend 2,000 years to make up for the lost vitality. This time, Yangchen understood everything. The reason why the Big Dipper elders seemed to be fine now was because the side effects of their skyrocketing cultivation were all because of the great damage they suffered after giving birth, allowing their bodies to reach a balance again. And because of this, the Black Heaven sect had more than 30 Earth Immortal level experts who were close to the Heaven Immortal level. After decades of training, they would definitely be able to hold their own. Speaking of which, the Zhao family also knew this, so the experts that Yang Chun had met from the Zhao family, whether it was Yang Jisheng of the Five Elements sect or Home Master Zhu of the Black Heaven sect, all had children. On one hand, it would allow the Zhao family to have more manpower, and on the other hand, they could use this opportunity to stay in the spiritual realm for many years to make arrangements. The expedient plan that Elderly mentioned was to let the experts have children to replenish their strength. This was also why he asked for the 100-year pills and 1,000-year pills. With so many 100-year pills and 1,000-year pills, at least 1,000 or 2,000 Mystic Immortal experts could have a child close to the Heaven Immortal level, greatly increasing the sect's strength. This was the first time Yang Chun had come into contact with this. He never thought that even if he destroyed the Taishaman in the mortal world, there would be such a way. However, Yang Chun was also very clear that this was just an expedient plan. Just relying on the experts to have children would be a waste of experts' time. The spiritual realm could be replenished, but there weren't many in the immortal realm. Therefore, he definitely needed to find a way to cure the root cause. There's also a way to cure the root cause. Next to him, Sect Masterly opened his mouth while tasting the wine. This was brewed by the wife of his disciple. In terms of seniority, this was a gift from his wife to her father-in-law. Tasting it for the first time, of course, it was very delicious. Last time, the immortal realm sent an expert to the mortal realm, but unfortunately, there was a problem. After years of careful preparation, another one was sent. These were the secrets of the Xintian sect, but Sect Masterly did not hide anything and directly told Yang Chun. It is said that this time it was very successful. I believe that there will soon be a sect in the mortal world that will slowly develop. At that time, together with Qinyang Palace, our Xintian sect will still be the #1 sect in the world. Rebuild the Taishaman in the mortal world? Yang Chen's face was full of surprise, and it was definitely not an act, but it immediately changed to worry. If we call it the Taishaman, we will definitely be attacked by everyone. But if we call it another sect, this reputation, what does it matter? Sect Master Li snorted coldly. In the past, our mortal world sect was not called the Xintian sect, but the Taishaman. This is not the first time that a sect has been exterminated. In the future, there may be another sect that will become the mortal world sect of our Xintian sect. The name is not a problem. At this time, Yang Chen knew why the mortal world was called the Taishaman and not the Xintian sect. It turned out that there had been a massacre in the past, so that was how it was. However, according to this Xintian sect was indeed amazing. After being exterminated once, it could still develop into the #1 sect. It really had some means. No wonder the Xintian sect could control the heavenly court in the immortal realm. Just this kind of courage was not comparable to that of other sects. In this case, this disciple is willing to offer all the millennium pills and 100-year pills. Yang Chun was a smart person. After hearing this, he immediately expressed his loyalty without saying anything. Didn't you want the millennium pills and 100-year pills? Give. No money. Chapter 2044. I knew you were loyal. Elderly patted Yang Chen's shoulder with admiration and walked to the back. Our mysterious heaven sect will reward meritorious deeds and punish mistakes. Sect Masterly was at the front and said with a smile, "You just offered the Zhao family manor and the 1,000-year pill. Didn't you want a cave abode? 1,000-year pill for a 1,000-mile cave abode. The other 100-year pill and the Zhao family manor will be exchanged for 1,000-mile cave abodes. Is that enough?" Disciple thanks Master. Yang Chun immediately thanked him. In an instant, the mysterious heaven sect took out more than 2,000-mile cave abodes. Although they were all small cave abodes for Gong Sunling, mosquitoes were also meat. It would be a waste not to take them. Moreover, with so many cave abodes, each one would take at least 100 years of mysterious heaven sect disciples' time. As the group of people laughed, The Zhao family manor was transferred from the hands of sect Master Li to Elder Li. To test and send experts in, these Xian Immortal Grand Elders had to send people. However, as soon as they got to the Zhao family manor and saw the shoddy appearance of the Zhao family manor, Elder Li couldn't help but frown. Who refined this later? What a waste. Disciple learned the Zhao family's mortal methods and let a Xian immortal demonic beast swallow the cave abode so that it could move at any time. Yang Chen smiled and said helplessly, "When I let him refine it, that guy's skills weren't good. Grand Elder, please forgive him. Send it into the stomach of an expert." Elderly was stunned and then nodded. "And that's also a way." He looked down at the Zhao family manor again and asked, "Is the core mountain gate of Chunyang Palace like this? How many people can it hold? If we squeeze a little, it can barely fit the entire sect." Yang Chun smiled bitterly. Of course, this was just for show. The real core mountain gate was the one left by the South Pole Immortal Cicadere. Not only could Chunyang Palace fit 100 times more people, but it could also accommodate them for cultivation. "I received your great kindness last time, and always felt embarrassed that I didn't have a gift to thank you." Old Li put away the Zhao family manor and said with a smile, "I originally felt that it was not appropriate for the pure Yang Palace to be destroyed several times. So in the past few hundred years, we old guys have taken advantage of the leisure time of the children's education to refine a bigger Immortal's Cave for you and take it back to the Mountain Gate." With that said, a small and exquisite bonsai escaped and was about to be handed to Yang Chun. But the moment Yang Chun stretched out his hand, he retracted it, making Yang Chen's hand stretched out in the air. Sect Master Li, who was next to him, didn't expect Elder Li to do this. He looked at this side inexplicably. "Elder Li, didn't that he would do this? Li Chun that Chun." I said, family moo, the that Chun, the mountain gate, Elder and Chun, sect Li moo, the Li the family, the sect master, family master, one. The relationship between the sect master's great elder and the sect master's personal disciple was very close. When they left, Yang Chun had lost a bunch of century-old pills and thousand-year pills, but more than 2,000 small cave abodes and one big cave abode. When the Heavenly Dipper elders refined this cave abode, firstly, it was to repay Yang Chen's favor, and secondly, it was to consume their skyrocketing cultivation. Therefore, they were extremely meticulous and almost did not care about the loss. The area of the cave abode alone was more than 100,000 miles. During the refining, not only the 36 of them, but also their relatives and friends also helped out in their spare time. In short, the number of masters dispatched was definitely the highest in 10,000 years. An ordinary heaven immortal master could refine a 1,000-mile cave abode in 100 years. It was obvious what kind of good things were refined by 36 Heavenly Dipper elders and more profound immortal masters after 200 years. 3 heaven immortal level spirit veins were directly collected inside, and many kinds of demon beasts were also secretly released in a vast territory. The disciples of Chunyang Palace could train as long as they were inside, and they didn't need to go out at all. Unless they were top masters, they would need stronger opponents. This big gift was definitely not light. Even Yang Chun began to be tempted. In the end, should he let Gong Sun Ling collect the refining fusion, or give it to the Earth Dragon to let him refine it into the mountain gate of the pure Yang Palace? After hesitating for a while, Yang Chun decided to leave it to Chunyang Palace. After all, it was something with a history. Yang Chen didn't need to explain it to these guys when they had nothing to do one day and wanted to come in and have a look. However, more than 2,000-mile cave abodes could also make a small supplement to the mountain and river geographical map. It was really worth it to pay a mere 1,000-year pill. The mysterious heaven sect took these pills to strengthen the sect. The stronger the mysterious heaven sect was, the harder the blow to the Zhao family would be. On the other hand, the revenge of the Zhao family's masters would also be more ruthless. Yang Chan wished that the two families could fight now and both sides would suffer. At the same time, the experience of the mysterious heaven sect also gave Yang Chun a wake-up call. If he wanted to supplement the mountain river geographical map, He didn't need those large, high-grade cave abodes. This kind of ordinary cave abodes could be bought in the market. As long as there were enough of them, they would have the same effect. As for paying the things that could be bought with spirit stones for the current Yangchun, there was no cost. He could casually exchange some good things for a large number of spirit stones. It was also because of this that Yangchun thought of two other extremely famous magic treasures in the future. One was a cave abode that was almost comparable to the Dragon Palace, and the other was a super powerful immortal sword that was famous in the immortal world. These two magic treasures were said to have appeared in the market. The cave abode and the immortal sword were covered up by an expert using ingenious methods. They looked ordinary on the outside, and there was nothing special about them. For some unknown reason, he slowly drifted into the marketplace. Ordinary sellers had eyes, but failed to see. They didn't treat the treasures as treasures and only sold them as ordinary things. Even the buyers didn't know the true value. These two super magic treasures only revealed their true faces when they were in use. The cave abode was still good. It had always been kept by the cultivator and became famous in the immortal world. As soon as the immortal sword appeared, it was fought over by countless cultivators, causing a bloody storm. More than 10,000 people died in the fight for the immortal sword. It wasn't the time for these two magic treasures to appear in the world, but both magic treasures had a characteristic. It was said that they had been on the shelves for thousands of years without anyone asking for them. Calculating the time, these two things should have appeared on the shelves where they should have appeared. It was just that Yangchun wasn't completely sure that after experiencing the demonic tribulation that was different from his previous life, the same goods would appear in the same shops. This matter wasn't something that Yangchun could decide. If he wanted to know the answer, it seemed that there was only one way. That was, Yangchun had to personally go to the place where these two magic treasures had appeared and look for them himself. He could also take the opportunity to buy a large number of small cave abodes and put them in a mountain river geographical map. This would also make his third primordial spirit live better. Chapter 2045. Before coming here, Yangchun's family had temporarily separated. The women had not returned to their respective sect for more than 300 years, so they had to go back and give an explanation to the sect. On the one hand, they had to report their cultivation gains to their respective masters, and on the other hand, they had to contact the other people in the sect. Cultivation was not about cutting off one's emotions, but there were still some relationships that needed to be taken into account. It just so happened that Yangchun's visit to the mysterious heaven sect couldn't be known by others, so everyone separated and gathered at the Sunset Rock a year later. No matter how long a husband and wife had been together, they still needed some independent time and space. This was the way of family harmony. Until now, Tao Junkie didn't know that Yangchun and she were already nominally senior brother and junior sister. Tao Junkie sometimes worried about the relationship between the sect and her husband. The mysterious heaven sect's overbearing way of doing things always made the cultivators of the other sect feel disgusted. Tao Junkie was well aware of this. Fortunately, so far, Tao Junkie and Yangchun didn't have any fundamental conflicts, and the couple got along normally, which made Tao Junkie feel a little more at ease. However, after returning to the sect, she became more careful with her words and actions. She was afraid that she would accidentally say something wrong and cause the sect to covet Yangchun. For no other reason, Yangchun had too many good things around him. Any cultivator would be tempted. Along the way, when Yangchun passed by various markets, he would plunder a lot of things. He had almost unlimited spirit stones. As long as something was priced with spirit stones, whether it was medicinal herbs or magic treasures, as long as Yangchun liked it, he would buy it. In particular, the space magic weapons of the Immortal's cave and medicine garden were basically swept away when Yangchun went to other people's shops. The news had not yet spread, but there were already some rumors in the markets where Yangchun had swept through. Everyone was guessing if the price of magic treasures was going to increase. Or is there some secret hidden inside? By the time Yangchun arrived at the Wanbao Tower, all the shops had begun to study the space-type magic weapons in their shops. They were all wondering what secrets there were in them that could make the world-famous Master Yang sweep them up like this. Yangchun, you have to reveal a little bit of the reason. Elder Wu Xiong received Yang Chun at the main office of the Wanbao Tower. As the two of them were enjoying tea, Wu Xiong said with a smile, "Otherwise, it would not be so easy for you to buy another space-type magic treasure. Everyone is starting to be reluctant to sell it. Even if they want to buy it, they will raise the price, and you will lose more than you gain." Oh, Yang Chun was now a master of alchemy, but in terms of business, he admitted that he was not even as good as Elder Wu Xiong or Shang Wanfeng. He accepted Elder Wu Xiong's opinion very modestly and explained to Elder Wu Xiong with a smile, "In fact, it's nothing. It's just that Ling's life-bonded magic treasure has recently reached a critical moment. It needs to integrate some caves and medicine gardens to stabilize the space and enhance its power. There is no other purpose." Wu Xiong was very familiar with the women around Yang Chun. When he heard Yang Chen's words, he thought that Gong Sunling's mountain river geographical map was also a space-type magic treasure, and he immediately understood a lot. Pointing to Yang Chun, he shook his head with a wry smile and said, "But you don't have to sweep all the shops along the way like this. It has caused everyone to speculate for no reason." After that, he didn't get up. He directly used his divine thought to transmit the reason why Yang Chun bought the space-type magic treasure to the shopkeeper of the Wanbao Tower. This news must be released immediately, so that Yang Chun would not have difficulties in purchasing space-type magic treasures in the future. Elder Wu, Wanbao Tower can also purchase some from the outside. It could be exchanged with spirit stones or magic treasures. Yang Chen's heart moved. When would he buy it? He was really stupid. It was better to let Wanbao Tower sell it quickly and cheaply, and it would not arouse other suspicions. It was a business. Was it worth making a fuss about buying a commodity? I have already given the order. Elder Wu Xiong had long thought about it before Yang Chun. Otherwise, he would not be able to control Wanbao Tower. The news must be sent out as soon as possible. Even the news that Gong Sunling's mountain river geographical map was also a space-type magic treasure must be spread. It was very important not to arouse people's imagination. All the women went back to their respective sect to handle some affairs. There was still some time before they came over. While waiting for the women, Yang Chun lived in Sunset Rock. He practiced as usual every day and wandered around various shops in his spare time. In the shops of Sunset Rock, there was no one who didn't know Yang Chun, Master Yang. No matter which shop Yang Chun went to, the person with the highest status in the shop immediately came out to greet him. Whatever he wanted to see was directly sent to Yang Chun. They couldn't be more attentive. Not to mention that Sunset Rock was the territory of Chunyang Palace. Just the favor Yang Chun had given during the Devil Tribulation was enough for these shops to receive him grandly. Not to mention Yang Chen's achievements in alchemy, many people wanted to ask for pills. At this time, Yang Chun came to their door. If they didn't hurry to leave a good impression on Master Yang, when would they? Wanbao Tower had the function of collecting intelligence in secret. Similarly, it was also good at spreading news. On the second day after Yang Chun came to Sunset Rock, all the shops in Sunset Rock knew Yang Chen's intention to buy space-type magic weapons. Knowing that Yang Chun used space-type magic weapons to please beautiful women, everyone was happy to play along. They packed all kinds of space-type magic weapons in their shops and sent them to Yang Chun. If Yang Chun was willing to buy it with spirit stones, he could also exchange it with elixirs. All the shops would definitely be happy with the latter. Unfortunately, Yang Chun was determined to use spirit stones this time and didn't give anyone a chance. However, it was already very happy to make Master Yang happy. As for business, it had to be long-term. Whether it was relationships or favors, they had to be built slowly. These shops were even better at this. Anyway, everyone was a cultivator, and they had plenty of time. There was still a long way to go. None of these places had the cave residence that Yang Chun wanted to buy. Speaking of which, Yang Chun also didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the senior who refined that super immortal cave. It was obviously a super immortal cave magic weapon, but he took great pains to disguise it as a small immortal cave that was neither too big nor too small, and the price was not too big or too small. It was placed on the shelf for thousands of years without anyone asking about it. He didn't know what kind of bad taste it had. One had to know that the effort of disguising it was no less than refining a high-level immortal cave. Disguising an immortal cave with a radius of more than hundreds of thousands of miles, with countless spiritual veins, various resources, and countless monstrous beasts, into a small immortal cave with a radius of no more than 10 miles. Even if a master left a spiritual consciousness imprint on it, or even refined it, they would not be able to find it. The difficulty was indeed not ordinary. Yang Chen couldn't understand the thoughts of that senior. Perhaps it was to avoid disaster, but the time spent on disguising it would take at least decades or even hundreds of years. With the time it took to refine it, it was not known how far away the immortal cave would have been. No matter how strong the enemy was, there was no way for them to catch up. In the end, Yang Chun could only interpret this as the bad taste of that senior. Chapter 2046. When the girls gathered a year later, Yang Chun already had tens of thousands of small cave abodes and herb gardens. There were also hundreds of large ones that were tens of thousands of li in size. Unfortunately, no matter how big they were, they basically wouldn't appear in shops. They were all used by the sect as a mountain gate or a trump card. Basically, they wouldn't be sold for pitiful spirit stones. Even so, Gong Sunling was a little overjoyed. In fact, she also heard about what Yang Chun had done during this period of time. Her husband had done so much for her and taken so many risks. Gong Sunling felt that she couldn't repay her husband's care for her. Moreover, all of this was for Gong Sunling, which would inevitably make the other girls a little jealous. Although the others wouldn't say a word about this, Gong Sunling understood that this wasn't the way to achieve harmony in the big family. Therefore, during the meeting, Gong Sunling's attitude was very humble. She personally prepared all kinds of delicious food for the sisters in order to make them happy. You don't have to think that I'm biased towards Aling, of course. Yang Chun understood Gong Sunling's thoughts. Therefore, when the girls gathered, Yang Chun also wanted to untie the knot in the hearts of the girls. Believe me, this isn't for Aling alone. This is for our family. This is an unprecedented initiative. Even if it fails, it's to prepare a way out for our family. The girls didn't have any thoughts of jealousy. It was just that Gong Sunling felt embarrassed. Now that Yang Chun had explained it so clearly, who would still have a grudge? They were already as good as sisters. This time, they were even more harmonious. This time, we'll go west. Yang Chun didn't directly say his destination. He just set a direction. I haven't walked around the spiritual realm for a long time. Let's walk around more. When we come across a market, see if there's anything we like. The girls all agreed. Even if they had become immortals, female cultivators were still female cultivators. Their favorite thing to do was to walk around the market. In any case, everyone was just having fun and following their husband to buy some things. They could just take it as a vacation in the spiritual realm and live the lives of ordinary cultivators. The Immortal's Cave and the medicine garden in Yang Chen's hands, except for the pure bottle medicine garden, were all thrown into the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun had already checked all the immortal caves and herb gardens, but there was nothing he wanted. These could be absorbed and fused by the mountain river geographical map, which was of great help. In fact, Yang Chun also intended to integrate the pure bottle medicine garden into the mountain river geographical map, because the pure bottle medicine garden had been integrated with a dragon clan gourd, which could hold any liquid. It was originally a magic treasure of the dragon clan. If it was integrated into the mountain river geographical map, it would increase the foundation of the mountain river geographical map. But for the time being, Yang Chun had not discussed it with Aju and Abai. Before the two of them agreed, Yang Chun would not make a move. Secondly, the pure bottle medicine garden collected a large number of fine medicinal materials, which were of great use to Yang Chun for the time being. Once it was integrated, as long as Yang Chun and Gong Sunling were separated, alchemy would not be so convenient, so Yang Chun did not plan to integrate the pure bottle medicine garden immediately. The small immortal's cave in his hand began to be integrated as soon as it entered the mountain river geographical map. Not to mention the more than 2 million cultivators in the mountain river geographical map. There were suddenly 3 more dragon spirits, at least 2 of which began to work, coupled with Yang Chen's 3rd primordial spirit. The mountain river geographical map was extremely fast in refining the space. 1,000 miles of Mortal's cave, in just a few hours, was like a snowman melting under the sun, quietly integrated into the mountain river geographical map. Don't look at each of them only having 1,000 miles, but tens of thousands of them added up. It was by no means a small number. What's more, there were hundreds of large Immortals caves with a radius of 10,000 miles, which was directly equivalent to adding several super Immortals caves. Among the women, the most surprising one now was Shi Wuxuang. When it came to defense, perhaps Gong Sunling ranked first. When it came to combat effectiveness, then it was definitely Shi Shanshan who could kill in one blow. When it came to pets, there was no doubt that it was the Murong sisters. But when it came to the degree of tenacity in battle, it was Shi Wuxuang. It was definitely an unexpected surprise to share life with the 24 Penlai Divine wood monsters. In the past, whether it was Yangchun, Sun Qingxue, or the Old Tree Demon, they had refined the Penlai Divine wood, but they had no opportunity to establish a connection with the Penlai Divine wood monsters. That was the Penlai Divine wood that Yangchun gave Shi Wuxuang had been living with the 24 Penlai Divine wood monsters. Their roots were connected, and then it was refined by Shi Wuxuang into a life source magic weapon, which was why there was such a miracle. This was also good. At least Shi Wuxuang's safety was greatly increased. Even if she went out alone, Yangchun could feel a lot more at ease. On the way, the women were basically sightseeing. Everyone relaxed. The speed was not fast, and the play was very pleasant. Especially after seeing the beautiful mountains and rivers, everyone would go to the market along the way to buy, which let the women satisfy their shopping addiction. Don't look at just such a little secular enjoyment. There were signs of small breakthrough for the women's state of mind. They could buy whatever they were interested in, and in this regard, Yangchun provided an unlimited supply of spirit stones. Even if they couldn't buy it with spirit stones, Yangchun could exchange it with medicinal pills. In short, this time they came out to make the women happy. What was a trivial property? In addition to the things that the women were interested in, the rest was the space-type magic weapon. The Immortals Cave and the Medicine Garden were almost as many as there were. The various shops basically heard the purpose of Yangchun wanting these space-type magic weapons, and they were very happy to give them. Only occasionally would they exchange some large Immortals Cave for 1 or 2 medicinal pills of Yangchun. When Yangchun agreed, they would solemnly put away the medicinal pills as if they were treasures for fear of damaging them. Along the way, Yangchun's family stopped at a special market. Of course, special was only for Yangchun. It was very ordinary for others. It was just a small market, surrounded by a few small and medium-sized sects, and the only slightly larger sect was just a first-class sect. The area was not large, only a dozen shops, but there were a lot of customers. People came and went. It looked very lively. The women dispersed and divided into several small groups to go shopping. Yangchun slowly walked into the most inconspicuous small shop. This shop looked very small from the outside, and the sign above was still very new. It should be newly opened. Seeing that there were guests coming in, the shopkeeper inside smiled and got up to greet them. There was not even a shop assistant. It was really a bit shabby. Yangchun just glanced at it, and he knew in his heart that this small shop called Shabby Pavilion was probably the one he had been looking for. Chapter 2047. The name of this store was very interesting. For fear that others wouldn't know that he sold cheap goods, he directly named it Shabby Pavilion. The women saw this store at first, but when they saw the name of the store, they didn't want to go in. Most of the cultivators had the same thought. First, they felt that the name was not good, and second, they didn't think that there was anything good in the name. It was estimated that only those who were a little poor would come and choose. The goods inside were just like the name of the store. They looked inconspicuous, and most of them were cheap and second-hand goods. At a glance, there weren't many things that could make people's eyes light up. Yangchun didn't care about this. With a smile on his face, after greeting the shopkeeper, he sat down at the big square table that the shopkeeper showed him. The shopkeeper didn't speak much, but he was very attentive and hurriedly served the fragrant tea. But the tea didn't seem to be of high quality, not to mention the tea foam. The fragrance was not very strong. However, Yangchun didn't seem to mind at all, and directly picked up the teacup and drank it in one gulp. Then he put down the teacup and said to the shopkeeper, I happen to pass by. I want to buy some space-type magic weapons. I don't know if the shopkeeper has any suitable goods here. The shopkeeper seemed to be a house cultivator who didn't care much about the situation outside. When Yangchen came in, he was holding a jade slip and slowly reading it. Only when there was a guest that he greeted. When he heard Yangchen say that he wanted to buy a space-type magic weapon, he nodded and directly turned around to search the shelves, and after a while, he came back with more than a dozen magic weapons. There aren't many space-type magic weapons, but the price is not cheap. Finally, the shopkeeper said a rare sentence, and then sat opposite to Yangchen and watched him choose. Isn't your store called Shabby Pavilion? Why is it so expensive? Yangchen picked up a piece and looked at it. It was a medicine garden with a radius of 100 miles. The thing was not very big, but the spiritual chi inside was very rich. It was a bit stronger than the average medicine garden, but the price was not ordinary. According to this price, at least 3 higher-grade magic weapons could be bought in ordinary shops. Shabby Pavilion. Coming in once, going out will be shabby. The shopkeeper didn't get angry because of Yangchen's words. On the contrary, he seemed to be very happy to answer this question. With a smile on his face, he said, This is the meaning of Shabby Pavilion. Don't misunderstand. Yangchen was dumbfounded. So this was the meaning of the name. He had guessed wrong. But then again, this thing really didn't match the price. Take this herb garden as an example. According to normal business, this herb garden would be at least 3 times more expensive than the price. If all the goods here were priced like this, then Yangchen could understand why the Super Immortal's cave in his previous life could be placed here for thousands of years without anyone asking about it. The spirit stones of cultivators didn't grow on trees. If they could buy good things at a low price in other places, why would they come here and become poor? Most cultivators who came in and saw this kind of tea foam service, then saw this kind of quality and this kind of price, most of them would turn around and leave without saying anything. The small portion that was left behind was probably very cultured. Sitting with them for a while was probably their limit. As for buying things, no matter how rich the cultivators were, they wouldn't be willing to be spendthrift, right? Shopkeeper, how long does it take for your Shabby Pavilion to sell a magic treasure? Yangchen casually put down the herb garden in his hand and picked up another cave mansion. He asked casually as he explored it, Do you know who you are? Hearing the hidden meaning in Yangchen's words, the shopkeeper couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. He said heavily, If you don't know what's good, then don't buy it. I think I'm selling it too cheaply. Although his words were harsh, Yangchen could hear the lack of confidence in his voice. He couldn't help but laugh. The shopkeeper probably understood what Yangchen was laughing about. He knew his own business, but he couldn't refute it. He could only mutter, Of course, it still depends on your luck. If your luck is bad, you can't blame others. Why do you say that? Yangchen asked curiously. Selling at such a ridiculous price, yet the store didn't go bankrupt. Obviously, there were still people who bought it. He just didn't know why. Among the magic treasures in this store, there are a few that are different. The shopkeeper probably said this to the customers many times. He was very familiar with it. If the esteemed customer can find it, then it will be priced according to the normal price. But if the esteemed customer doesn't know what's good, then don't blame this store for earning spirit stones. There was such a saying? Yangchen was surprised, but he quickly understood. Everyone had a gambling habit. Even cultivators were no exception. Moreover, no one wanted others to say that they didn't know what was good. After entering this store and being said by the shopkeeper, even if they didn't want to buy it, they had to buy it. Don't look at the store. The name was not good. Even the shopkeeper was not good. However, the way they sold things simply captured people's hearts. In particular, Yangchen saw that the better the things were, the higher the price. Although it was normal for good things to be sold at a higher price. However, this Shabby Pavilion was obviously not the case. The better the things were, the more outrageous the price. According to Yangchen's own estimation, the price of the things was 4 to 5 times or even 10 times higher. Some of the lower-level things were obviously not good. However, the probability of a super good thing appearing in a magic treasure was even higher. In order to save face and reduce their losses, those buyers who insisted that they knew what was good had to spend more spirit stones to prove themselves. Good business. Yang Chun put the second small immortal cave aside. He put it together with the medicine garden that he had just seen. Then he picked up the third immortal cave. As soon as he got his hands on it, Yang Chin's heart moved. This immortal cave was very small. It was only 10 miles in radius. It was just a slightly bigger manor. This kind of immortal cave was actually the most chicken ribs. In general, those who were really poor would either not be able to afford an immortal cave, or they would use a simple courtyard of 1 or 2 acres, which could shelter them from the wind and rain. Those who really had a little bit of wealth would definitely have an immortal cave that was thousands of miles long. It was best to have a spiritual vein inside. However, this 10 miles long immortal cave was not big or small. There was no spiritual vein inside. It was just an ordinary manor. In addition to being able to take it with him, there was almost no other meaning to it. How many spirit stones would it cost to casually find a place to build a 10 miles long manor? It was not worth it to spend tens of thousands of times the price to buy such a manor that could be taken with him. Just how much of a fool would he buy it? Carefully exploring with his spiritual consciousness, Yang Chun did not find any abnormalities. It was just an ordinary 10 miles long manor. If it were not for this immortal cave being very similar to the one in the legend, Yang Chun would have thought that this was the most ordinary manor.